Good evening. This meeting is called to order. This is the June 23rd, 2026 meeting of the Shrewsbury Select Board. We will start with introducing board and staff members present. I am Teresa Flynn.
Carlos Garcia.
Michelle Conlon.
Greg Richards.
Anand Sharma.
Kevin Mizikar, Town Manager.
Christine Ordung, Assistant Town Manager for Human Capital.
Nick Haas, Benefits Coordinator.
The first item on our agenda is to approve the bills, payrolls, and warrants.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Item number 2 is to review and act to approve the minutes of the June 9th, 2026 Select Board meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 3 is announcements and reports. Board members?
Yes, Madam Chair. I would like to announce some vacancies on boards and committees in town. On the Community Preservation Committee, there is one opening with a term expiring on June 30th, 2029. On the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee, there is an opening with a term expiring also on June 30th, 2029. And there is an additional vacancy that must be filled by a junior or senior in high school. And the Historic District Commission has an opening, same thing, term expiring June 30th, 2029. The application for each of these is July 13th, 2026. That's all I got.
Item number 4 is the town manager's report. Mr. Mizikar?
Yes, if I can get it open, I'm sorry. So I do have a couple updates for the board this evening. I'll start with, we have 2 active positions that are posted in the town manager's office. We have an executive position, or executive assistant position that's open that was just posted today, and a review of candidates will occur in 2 weeks. And we also have a deputy town manager posting that we'll talk a little bit more about later on the agenda. But I did want to note we have a very competitive field. We have 38 applicants that have applied so far, and the position will close with a resume review this Friday. A couple other updates for the board. A meeting was held earlier today with Civico Greenlee to review the demolition permit process for 1 through 7 Maple Avenue. So that project will be getting underway within the coming few weeks. And Representative Kane and Senator Moore have moved quickly to get the 2 pieces of special legislation that the board reviewed and approved at your last meeting, which is an act to increase the value of estates eligible for abatements. It is docketed as HD 6219, and an act allowing for print-free digital notices, which is HD 6220. So those are moving. We'll keep the board advised. And I did want to advise the board that earlier today I took the oath of office for my 4th term as town manager.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 5 is public comment pursuant to Select Board Policy 31, and we do have 1 resident that signed up for public comment this evening. If you'd like to come forward and just state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Wendy Quarion. I'm a resident of 45 Maury Lane here in Shrewsbury. I'm just going to take this opportunity to hopefully get an idea that was brought forward at the beginning of March back in motion. I've gotten some feedback over the past few days. I came up to the town hall on Thursday. I thought things had kind of just fallen off the table. And I've now gotten some feedback, but I had already agreed to come and speak tonight. So I just want to talk with you in person and just let you know where my thoughts are. So as many of you know, I'm sure you've heard the name Dawn Shannon. She was just the most fabulous person here in town. And on Saturday, February 28th, the town of Shrewsbury joined the Shannon family in saying goodbye to Dawn. She was a true Shrewsbury icon and legend at the age of 93 years. So she worked in the Parks and Recreation Department here. And what I'm quoting is a letter dated March 3rd, 2026, that I sent to the Select Board. So that's when all of this got started. I've just highlighted a couple of lines in the letter. I think you all have a copy. but just so that we're all on the same page. As many of you know, Dawn worked for the Parks and Recreation Department for 30 years, retiring in March of 2002. This amazing woman created and designed what we grew up knowing as the Park and Recreation to be, a safe haven on summer days throughout our childhood to go to, whether it be Dean Park, Coolidge School, Sherwood, Jordan Pond, to swim, to do crafts, to play sports. The most important thing was to feel safe and always welcome. Ginny Pierce Day was held annually at Dean Park, highlighting the talent of children and counselors singing and dancing across the stage. 4th of July festivities at Dean Park. Field trips open to all the children in town to places like Whalen Park, sporting events, skiing, where all were welcome to play and held at each of the schools and parks for endless evenings. Dawn truly did it all. She also believed in the town's children and would then hire them to help run these wonderful programs as they got older. So as I sat in the pew at St. Mary's Church, surrounded by the comfort of 15 former Parks and Recreation employees that I had had the pleasure over the years of working with, every summer during my younger years, we were a Parks and Recreation family. But Dawn's belief in us and the opportunities she provided us with added support and encouragement to lifelong endeavors. Out of these 15 people, many became teachers, principals, a superintendent, a guidance counselor, a Shrewsbury police officer, an owner of a preschool, Shrewsbury's athletic director, all continuing to work with children and residents of our town. Dawn made a difference in endless numbers of lives. So as I sat there at St. Mary's that morning and reflected on our town's legendary role model, I thought how ironic the timing. Because that same week, the ribbon was cut for the new Parks and Recreation office to open on Main Street next to Dean Park. I thought, how timely. As one chapter ends, a new chapter begins. And with that thought, I thought about the binding of the book. The strength and character that made Parks and Recreation what it is today, such a strong and well-respected base to expand upon and to continue to reach the needs of our children and townspeople. I thought, why not name the new Parks and Recreation building after Dawn Shannon? So I sent this letter to the Select Board on March 3rd. I had reached out to her family prior to doing so. I did have their permission. And so the letter was received, and I had requested to speak like I am now, March 10th. I didn't hear anything back. And then a former Select Board member, was in touch with Bob Shannon, her son. And it was explained that things were kind of on hold because the town you guys were working on the town naming policy, which I perfectly understood. So then I heard that was all coming together. And then we were sort of told, I was hearing it through the Sun, that then it looked like things were probably going to move forward and that the Raystone post was going to be painted and that hopefully by late August or the beginning of the fall, we could, I don't want to use the incorrect word, but name, dedicate, in John Shannon's name. Now, I do want to make it very clear for anyone who's listening that I want to be very respectful, and I know that building is the Raystone post. I'm not looking to change that. But the same way that, Richard Carney, was dedicated to the Town Hall building, I'm looking for like the Parks and Recreation building to be, dedicated to her. So, I guess what I'm really just looking in to see is if we can get this back on track. I know that you've been working on the town's naming policy, and I heard that that's sort of coming together. And I'd like this to be considered, hopefully approved, and then a timeline shared with the family and with those in town who are in favor of this. And just know that we're back on track and moving forward. If you need me to do anything else, if you have any other questions, certainly reach out to me. I'm available this summer to come back if you need me to speak or answer questions. And I have a large group of supporters behind me that would be more than willing to show their support as well. So just
Great.
want to say thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
I will note related to this public comment, this board did enact a policy in late April. And I will make sure I work with Mr. Mizakar's office to get that policy posted so the public is, aware of it. And I will add to a future agenda this topic so we can decide on next steps. Our policy does include a public comment process. So certainly those who are in favor would have the opportunity to come forward. So I will apologize for the lapse in the process over the past month, but we will get it back up. Item number 6 is a 7:05 public hearing to review and act on the change of officers' applications submitted by AMF Bowling Center's DBA Bolero at 405 Boston Turnpike. Dawson Cooper, I believe.
Yes.
Want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Dawson Cooper. I'm an attorney at Upton, Cannell, and Devlin here on behalf of AMF Bowling Centers, Inc. AMF is applying for a change of officers. I want to start off by saying that there will be no operational changes at the licensed location. And if I wasn't here telling you there was a change, you probably would not know there was a change. The change applied for is to remove Brett Parker as secretary, treasurer, and vice president of the licensee. The licensee has added Robert Levon as CFO, secretary, and treasurer, and previously approved officer Thomas Shannon remains the CEO and the director. Again, there will be no operational changes, and this is just a record-keeping transaction. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
This application was reviewed by our applicable town departments, and there were no issues noted. Board members, any comments or questions? Okay. This being a public hearing, are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this matter? And if not, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I will now entertain a motion on the application.
I move the board approve the change of corporate officers application submitted by AMF Bowling Center Incorporated, DBA Bolero Shrewsbury, to its Section 12 alcohol pouring license.
Second.
Oh,
I'm sorry. That
Oh,
was,
no.
Nope.
The change of officer.
Yep.
Yep.
I apologize. I will restate the motion. I move the board approve the change of corporate officers application submitted by AMF Bowling Centers Incorporated, DBA Bolero Shrewsbury, located at 405 Boston Turnpike, as submitted.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Agenda item number 7 is a 7:10 public hearing to review and act on the new garage license application submitted by RJ Foley, DBA Foley Motorsports at 727 Hartford Turnpike. And I know attorney Richard Ricker is
Yes,
joining us.
thank you.
Others,
Thank
if
you.
you wouldn't mind,
Do you want me at the podium or
you're fine to sit, unless you prefer to stand, really.
That's
It's-
okay.
It's your preference.
I don't mind standing to introduce myself. I'm Richard Ricker. Thank you.
If you would all just,
I'm R.J. Foley.
If I could just for the record, I'm Richard Ricker. I'm an attorney at 11 Maple Avenue in Shrewsbury, and I'm here representing RJ Foley, Inc. I'm here with Raymond J. Foley Jr., who is RJ Foley, and Matt Armenti is the newest attorney in the room. He's an attorney in my office, recently minted, I should say, and he's here to help us out as well.
congratulations. You can sit.
Thank you.
Mr. Ricker, do you want to outline?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Again, we're here for RJ Foley, Inc., DBA Foley Motorsports. He started operations in Shrewsbury 42 years ago, in 1984. He started with 2 employees down at 453 Boston Turnpike. He grew a little bit there to 5 employees by the time he moved over to DeFalco's old building. I forget the number on Hartford Turnpike in Shrewsbury. Eventually buying the piece of land at 894 Boston Turnpike in 2000. 2001, he obtained that property, got permits through the town to build the building for R.J. Foley Motorsports. At that time, he did get a variance. That property was zoned limited industrial at the time. Now it's zoned commercial business. At the time, it was limited industrial, and he obtained a variance. The variance specifically stated that it was to allow wholesale and retail sale, repair, and distribution of motor vehicles. So he had the permits, he's had the permits to do the sales and the repairs that he's been doing for all these years at that location. I raised this because, as you, I'm sure, noted, there was a bit of correspondence back and forth between us and departments relative to whether or not he needed a permit, because the building department had no record of any zoning board approvals of his operation over there. In fact, we found it online at the Registry of Deeds. I have a copy if you'd like to see it. He actually had 3 variances at that site. One for the sign out in front, which was set back from Boston Turnpike, and it was a setback variance. The other was a sideline variance for the building, because the building is squeezed over to the, as you look at it from Route 9 to the left-hand side of the property line, towards the Boston Tile property. But the first variance was clearly the one that allowed the operation itself. So we had a little bit of confusion, but I'd like to think that that's straightened out now. Your licensing regulations do, in your application list, require a special permit as part of the process. So I questioned, and I probably still do question somewhat, whether he actually needs a special permit, because he already had the variance and he's already been operating there for 42 years. And so that's a discussion I think that's going to continue and for another day, frankly. I just wanted to know, where we're at on that particular phase. Because now he has the good fortune to have available to him the Infinity franchise. We have, as late as today, finally got through the process to get his DBA as R.J. Foley Inc., DBA Foley Infinity.
Correct.
Having done that, I think the board needs to know that our contract with Infinity, as you can see from your packages, requires us to have licensing by the end of this month. So needless to say, we've been scrambling, to say the least. We've been scrambling to try to satisfy the various questions that have been raised. This is a request for the Class 1 license because the Infinity motor vehicles are all brand new. We're not looking to change the parking layout or anything. What he's got on site there right now is what he's going to use. You should know that, and I know that we have another hearing coming up. I don't know if you want me to talk about the 2 issues at the same time, but on a related issue, I would suggest to you that we would be looking to put some of the vehicles from the Infinity as well as some of the used vehicles from R.J. Foley Motorsports over at the 727 Hartford Turnpike location, which is also owned by an LLC which he controls and owns. The Infinity dealership, as I said, needs to be in place. The licensing needs to be in place by the end of the month, and that's why we're here. He's been in business in town here. He's a 65-year resident of Shrewsbury. Hey, there's not a lot of us that have stuck around here all this time and are still
That's
here.
true. That's true.
I actually beat him in that number, but the bottom line is that he, I believe, has a good record. He's been in business. He has a good record in business. I don't know of any complaints. His neighbors and he have always gotten along. We do expect to come back to you at some point in the hopefully near future, because we are going to be going to the planning board for site plan modifications for this 894 Boston Turnpike site, the 727 Hartford Turnpike site, as well as the property next door to him at 900 Boston Turnpike, because we will be asking for permission to park some vehicles over there as well. Now, it's not an uncommon request. As you know, other car dealers have come to the Board of Selectmen and the Select Board, I'm sorry, and have asked for permission to park vehicles off-site. In this particular case, what we're asking for with regard to 727 Hartford Turnpike is not, the only difference is he controls that site. He's not renting it, he owns it. So the other car dealers that I've been before you asking for the same permission have been lessees under lease agreements. So that's basically what we're asking for in terms of the license. It is a new car license, Class 1. He's had a Class 2, as I said, since 1984.
Okay.
And with that, if you have any other questions, if I missed anything, Matt will tell me.
So, staying focused on this particular agenda item,
Yes.
we will, review and discuss the garage license application.
Yes.
I understand that you dropped off additional materials today regarding the storage.
The request for parking. Yep.
So that will have to be a future agenda item, since we did not have an opportunity to review or put it on the agenda, so we're not prepared to discuss that this evening. But, it is our understanding that, the town does feel that the special permit is required. So our decision tonight,
Right.
if we were to approve, would be contingent upon that special permit being received.
Okay. Can I say something about that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. When you say contingent, does that mean that the license would be held until that special permit is obtained? Because if that's the case, then he won't have a license by the end of this month. Can we do it with a condition that he proceed through the special permit process? In which case it would not be withheld from him.
That was my understanding, Mr. Muzikar, is that not
I
your
mean, normally we've held it until it was received.
What's the challenge with the deadline here? Is it that Infinity is requiring
Yes.
the permit in place?
Yes.
Is that essentially moving Herb Chambers, Infinity gave it up, and then you're taking over and moving it?
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
And then if you don't get it by the end of the month, then what happens?
Well, they have a closing set up for the 13th of July that
We don't know.
we're all trying to get done. I'm not sure what the ramifications would be if we weren't able to obtain it.
As I read the letter that is in your file, it does note that there's a June 30th deadline for the licensing. And I honestly, I don't really know the difference other than holding the license. I don't know the difference between putting a condition on it or saying contingent upon. But if you put a condition on it, then at least he has the license in hand and this doesn't become an issue.
When do you actually anticipate operating under Infinity? Even if you had the closing, you're not really operating until when?
You need to take inventory when?
They wanted to have inventory the third week of July, and more importantly, they wanted us to be prepared to do warranty work because Central Mass is void right now for the dealership. The closest dealerships are Norwood, Danvers, Plymouth, Warwick, and Hartford. So there's a need in this area to get warranty work done or repairs done on the Infinity line.
And honestly, I have to just add, I don't know what the special permit would be for, except to satisfy the regulatory approval process of the license. And
Well, typically you would get that before it would come before us. So I think that there was an effort to make accommodation, to have you come in before the 30th. But I personally am not comfortable without approving this without having that ZBA confirmation on the permit. So our position right now is that we would potentially, I want to make sure other board members don't have, comments or questions. And I think, Mr. Mizikar, I don't know if you can advise on if we were to make it contingent upon ZBA approval, planning board approval of all the zoning and land use requirements, whether or not there's anything that we can do to potentially satisfy.
Can I just ask a clarification, because I just want to make sure I fully understand. The only reason for the special permit is for, if they're legally allowed to sell used cars today, that the only special permit provision is to sell a new vehicle? That's the only difference?
Which our zoning requires, correct?
I would.
Requires
I-
site plan review and a special permit by the ZBA. Review of parking spaces, handicap locations, number of spaces, all those things, they get regulated through a site plan.
Which is different than the used car piece.
Well, it's my understanding that the issuance is required for each license. I don't think zoning, the way our zoning and bylaws are set up, I don't think it precludes it just because there used to be a used car dealership there.
Well,
or-
the only reason I'm asking is I
understand
get
what you're
that there's
saying.
procedural
Yep.
pieces, but that's why, for me, the comfort of, if it was, let's say contingent upon, that you could have the license and saying the expectation is that you get that zoning board gets it approved. I feel like we're kind of, because of it's so similar, it's like a nuance, that I can't see the reason why the zoning board of appeals would deny it. I get that there's a procedure there, but I don't know if a 30-day delay is just for procedure. To me, it doesn't make a ton of sense, but that's just my opinion. If we don't have to, I get it, we don't have the authority.
Can I give you a copy of the ZBA approval, which does not differentiate between used cars and new cars? It allows the sale of motor vehicles. May I approach?
Yep.
This is the recorded decision.
Okay. We can definitely take this under advisement, and I think the best we can do is continue. I understand what you're saying here, and I will review this and share it with other board members, but it is still a new license.
I mean-
So the fact that there's, go
I mean,
ahead.
don't get me wrong, we've filed the papers to get the special permit.
Understood.
We did that finally. The problem is we won't get in front of the board for a month or two.
Right.
So that means that Infinity's gonna be sitting there saying to him, what the heck are you doing? If that's the way we have to deal with it, then so be it, but it just seems unreasonable. I'm sorry, it seems unreasonable. He's been in business since 1984, and he's been a good business in Shrewsbury, and,
No one's disputing that, Mr. Ricker, at all.
but he has a permit. He
I
has a
understand, but
permit.
he does not have a permit for the sale of the the new cars, and we have to follow the the bylaw that we have, unfortunately. I think you of all people probably understand that.
Well, I do, but I also understand nuance, and I understand the letter of a document.
And I would think that,
And I
given that
understand the letter of a
nuance,
document.
that this would be sufficient to say that, yes, it's probably going to be fine, but we can't guarantee that, and it's not under our purview to guarantee that, and I don't think it's reasonable to ask us to approve something when it hasn't gone through the proper process. So, happy to do whatever we can, and that, again, was why we were putting it on the agenda, and most likely, probably aligned with moving to approve the application contingent upon this special permit And if the special permit follows, to your point, everything is good.
Okay,
If the board wants to consider the condition, I would just, I can confirm with council. I can't do that now. I could do it in the morning. The board, as a licensing issue authority, has the ability to call for a hearing of any licensee at any time, and you would have to do that to revoke the license if they didn't get it. I know no one on the board wants to hold Mr. Foley up from getting his. I don't see in the application materials, Attorney Ricker, where the June 30th date was identified. But, that's neither here nor there. I think we advertised it as soon as we possibly could, and this was the first meeting that we could get you before.
Kevin, it's in there was a letter, the Infinity letter, I think it's called Infinity Letter of Commitment, and it says, this offer may be accepted only by your timely accomplishment no later than June 30th, 2026, as described below the conditions.
I see. It's in the, I'm sorry. I was looking at the 727 Hartford Turnpike file,
Yeah.
not that one. I apologize. I see it now. Thank you.
and although I tried to get into the next ZBA meeting, which is coming up next Monday, we missed the deadline because of timing, just timing. So we're now a month out.
Mr. Mizikar, is there any precedent for giving this and making this type of approval contingent on, or contingent on a future decision by ZBA?
Yeah, I think it's been done before. I'm not really concerned about that. I think it's just condition versus contingency is what's at issue. I don't ever recall it being a condition, but understand the circumstances before us this evening. But there's a little chicken and the egg on all these
Yes.
with the ZBA process that we have set up here in Shrewsbury.
And is it because the next ZBA, you would have to give notice of the application? Or?
Yeah, so the ZBA is really the authority that would alter the site plan and have that technical review of it. And if it goes before the board first and the board approves a certain number of parking spaces for the sale of motor vehicle used or otherwise, or new, and the ZBA finds something different with their dimensional requirements, then it would have to come back to the board. So that's why it normally goes to the ZBA first.
And that's why we kept our license request to the 121 parking spaces that he presently has per the previous plan that he had for his license.
And that was our understanding, is that there's no changes to the current use of the site. And so I'm just confused on why this can't go on the ZBA agenda for Monday.
Because they didn't advertise,
It has to be advertised.
It has to be
yeah.
advertised. Any special permit has to be advertised.
That's what I was,
Even a regulatory one, I think.
I'm confused. I'm looking at this, and to me, it says, I think to Mr. Ricker's point here, that it says retail sale, repair, and distribution of motor vehicles doesn't indicate new or used, and as long as I believe you are not accommodating more than 132 vehicles,
It says 132, yeah.
that I would think at whether it's new, used, and before you go through the other pieces, if you're operating under these conditions.
Which is why,
But
which is
obviously-
why when I first
Yeah.
did the application, I went to the town manager's office and I spoke about the list of items that were necessary. And frankly, I was informed that I didn't need to worry about the special permit because he's already operating and he already had permits there. So I was under the misimpression, unfortunately, that we didn't have to worry about that special permit. And that's why I had a fairly continuing discussion with our zoning enforcement division about that. To no avail. I didn't win. I didn't get what I wanted. But as a lawyer, I have to argue and I have to fight for my client and do the best I can. And I still think, frankly, that I'm right, and that I think if there's any purpose to these things, if we're not changing the site, if we're not changing the parking, and we have a permit to operate, then what are we asking for? So
Would that not be sufficient for Infinity then?
the 121 is acceptable to Infinity because he's going to reduce the number of used vehicles on the site in order to accommodate Infinity. But that's also the reason why I put in the other request for the off-site parking at 727. With the understanding, and zoning enforcement and building department knows that we are in the process of putting together plans to do site plan reviews for all three properties that we want to use to get site plan modifications in order to move forward and to get everything straight, which is something that frankly they've wanted, and now we're doing.
Mr. Mizikar, if we were to move forward with this and you worked with council in the morning, and would there, it wouldn't be proper for us to move forward with this, what would be the next steps?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
If we were to make the approval this evening, dependent on, with these contingencies, dependent on review of council tomorrow, what would be the next steps pending the response from council? If they were to say, we can't move forward with this, what would happen?
Well, I don't think there's any question whether you can move forward. I think the questions that I understand is, do you want to place a condition upon the license, or do you want to make a contingent upon the next action? And I don't know if council has reviewed the recordings that you have, but it could preclude the need to go to the ZBA if council advises that that's sufficient. And
I have a feeling that the council may advise that, because that's the way I read it. And I mean, the language is very clear on that.
Mm-hmm.
So
If we approve it and subsequently say council says we have to get the special permit and the special permit is not approved, or this doesn't move forward, then the license is revoked, correct? So it feels low risk to approve it, and we will take further
then I'd
action
be
if we
scrambling
need
to try to get on the next agenda or whatever. Yeah,
It's fine, we're not trying to be unreasonable, I hope you can
No, I
understand.
know
No.
that. I know that. Listen, I know that.
Totally understand.
I hope you understand.
Listen.
It's a frustrating process for us as well. I understand, and I don't mean to frustrate the process altogether.
No, I just so, I think it's, I'm not necessarily feeling the confidence on our side either, and so I think that.
We appreciate the
This is
consideration.
me, any board members would,
I mean, I'm
What is the
comfortable with
pleasure
the
of the board?
condition. I mean, because like you said, if it doesn't go through, but I just can't, I mean, we got bigger problems if
Right.
used car's no good. Used cars, it doesn't even make sense.
well,
So
to me, it's like, why do they even need to be here? Like, I
I
don't
don't think they do,
understand.
according to that
Like, I know.
document. But they are, so I think,
When I read that list with your application process, frankly, I thought that condition of getting a special permit was for someone who didn't have a license and was not using the property they were going to.
I understand, yeah.
So it made sense if you looked at it that way. But not having been the drafter of that list, who knows?
Mr. Ricker, is the letter that you provided us dated 2021,
Yes.
do you know if you provided that in the materials for this evening's meeting?
We just obtained it today.
Just did, okay.
Yeah, because I was talking to Patty Sheehan yesterday, and she said she had no record of him having zoning board relief to allow the sale of motor vehicles. She had no record in the town's records. So we went and looked in the registry of deeds records, and these are what we found, these three variances.
Okay, thank you.
And we just printed them today, so I apologize, that's why I'm bringing them in.
No, I appreciate that you had it, you had a hard copy at least, because that provides a little bit of clarity to this, so.
I was so surprised when she said there was no record of any zoning board approvals for his operation. But, hey, listen, it happens. And, you know, a lot of the records have gone from paper to digital now, so who knows?
Mhm. Are other board members comfortable with, are you comfortable with the condition versus the, all
Yes.
right, I think,
100%.
okay,
And with condition is okay, we can go.
okay.
I feel the same.
All right, what is the pleasure of?
Is Kevin comfortable? That's a question. I see.
He's a little pensive back there.
I think it's fine. I mean, I think it's clear in our zoning bylaws that, you know, a Class 1 dealership needs a special permit, but I understand this underlying factor. It's something that I haven't seen or reviewed, but I think a condition, I'm comfortable with a condition. I just remind the board, well, I think I have a question. It seems like we've been talking a lot about item 7 and not, or item 8 and not item 7.
Correct.
So I think the board is in a public hearing for the garage license right now.
Oh,
And then we
I'm
can,
sorry.
we can get back to conditions.
Yes, and I spoke a lot about 894, and 727 has been operating as a repair garage since Barry LaCroix was there, frankly, I don't know, 50 years ago. Since RJ, his entity, purchased the site, there's been a lot of renovation and a lot of work done on the site to clean up the parking areas, to clean up the site, make it presentable. It is quite a presentable site now. We have, we hired, as we did for the other sites, we hired Jarvis Land Survey and had a full survey done, which we just obtained this last week or two. We've gone through various iterations of that in our discussions with the building department, zoning enforcement. So we are, we believe that we now comply in all respects for the purposes of the license request, knowing that that license also had to meet the requirements of, the plan needed to meet the requirements of the zoning board of appeals as well. So we, and I will tell you that I have made a commitment with the zoning enforcement division to continue the process and to continue through the plan modifications so that the planning board does do a final site plan modification for these properties. So with that, as you can imagine, I don't think I need to emphasize that RJ and his operation have experience in the sales and repair area, and that's what he intends this property for, is for hopefully the storage and repair of vehicles for his dealerships.
So,
And the public, I should say.
yeah, so this is a public hearing. Is there any member of the public that would, excuse me, that wishes to speak on the new garage license application? There's no one here, so I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Board members, any additional discussion on item number 7, which again is related to the garage license
I
application?
just have a question. So it was currently a repair facility,
Yes.
so there's really no, besides ownership change,
There's no change.
there's no change of use until you, well, even, you're modifying use, but after you go through the whole planning board approval. So it's essentially, we're not changing anything about how the business is operating today with this specific approval.
There's a repair garage operating there now.
Okay.
We did apply for a special permit because of the alteration of a prior non-conforming use
Yep.
at the site, the alteration being the change of ownership.
Got it.
So that application is in.
Okay. Clear.
Yeah, again, I understand, like, this, I don't want to say this was rushed, but, you know, there was an attempt to get this in to help you to meet your June 30th deadline. And
We
in a
appreciate that.
perfect world, we would have either liked for it to either have gone through the ZBA process or for there to have been sort of consensus with
We truly
council and
appreciate
town
that.
staff that, you know, it wasn't required. And while I'm uncomfortable sort of bypassing that process, I feel like, you know, again, if in the end we approve it here and it later is deemed to not meet other requirements, we can just revoke it. So I think I'm comfortable in that respect, and it appears that other board members are as well. So if there's no further discussion, I will take a motion on item number 7.
I move the board approve the garage license application submitted by Foley Motorsports for 727 Hartford Turnpike with the condition of satisfying all zoning and land use requirements under the purview of the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes. We'll move on to agenda item number 8, which is a 7:15 public hearing to review and act on the Class 1 motor vehicle dealer license application of R.J. Foley at 894 Boston Turnpike.
And thank you, Madam Chairperson. I think you've heard enough from me.
I was going to say, I think we've exhausted the conversation, but I want to make sure. Board members, any additional conversation? Again, this being a public hearing, are there any members of the public? I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second, so moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, and I will entertain a motion on the application.
I move the board approve the new Class 1 motor vehicle dealer license application submitted by R.J. Foley, Inc., DBA Foley Motorsports for 894 Boston Turnpike with the condition of satisfying all zoning and land use requirements under the purview of the Planning Board and the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Thank you very much for your time and your patience, and
Thank you so
best of
much.
luck.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate
We
it.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Can I ask just one question? I know I've had.
You may.
He would be operating as Foley Infinity. So would the license be granted to R.J. Foley, Inc., DBA Foley Infinity?
If that's the legal, yes.
Yes.
That's the
I
legal.
prefer it.
That's
Yes.
illegal.
Yes.
And we did obtain the DBA certificate.
Do you want to just send that along and make
Sure,
sure we get it right?
sure.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Do
Thank
we
you.
need to
Do
revise
I
the
need a new
motion?
one?
Foley Motorsports versus
Yeah, when,
Let's do it.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Carlos.
So it's fully
Fully.
infinity.
DBA Foley.
So we'll do it again. I move the board approve the new Class 1 motor vehicle dealer license application submitted by R.J. Foley, Inc., DBA Foley Infinity for 894 Boston Turnpike with the condition of satisfying all zoning and land use requirements under the purview of the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
We really appreciate your
it.
patience and help. Thank you.
My kids said they were coming and they were gonna get up and say.
Make a
"Don't do
ruckus?
it."
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much. Appreciate it.
Agenda item number 9 is an update from the town manager on key positions and organizational structure. Mr. Muzikar?
Great. Thank you, board members, for the opportunity to provide some updates this evening. Some of which we've talked about, or all of which we've talked about one-on-one, but it's a pleasure to be able to share this with the community. If you want to go ahead to slide 2, Nick, please. So what I'm going to do this evening is kind of give you a review of the existing organization charts and senior leadership positions that we have within the town, review a revised organization chart, and walk you through the rationale and the benefits that we see through making these changes. So first, here's the current organization chart. It's characterized with 3 assistant town managers and 3 additional members of what we call the executive leadership team, a director of public works position, the fire chief, and police chief. These titles and the executive leadership team recognize the scope of work and effort that the individuals who hold these positions put in, and also allows them to provide broad advice and assistance for policies and procedures that we set across all town departments. As it's set up right now, we currently don't have 2 positions filled that are shown. The Director of Public Works position is vacant, and the Assistant Town Manager for Administration and Finance position is vacant. The former being vacant for a shorter time, and the latter being vacant for over a year now. We made several attempts to hire for the Assistant Town Manager for Administration and Finance position in its current configuration over the last year, and those weren't successful, didn't meet the expectations that we wanted, so we didn't fill those at that time. So you can go ahead, Nick. So the proposed organization chart may look different at its initial glance, but it's actually quite similar. I will point out there's fewer members that are part of the executive leadership team, fewer direct reports into the town manager. And what we think is the hallmark of this is a greater functional alignment within the organization, a more traditional approach than what we have been pursuing over the past few years, which I'll talk a little bit more beyond the org chart in a couple minutes. So it has an assistant town manager for public works. This is means that we wouldn't be filling the director of public works position. It has the assistant town manager for administration and finance position being used. It eliminates the use of the assistant town manager for human capital title. And it introduces a deputy town manager position. Now, both assistant town managers and the deputy town manager have functional areas or portfolios that they would be responsible for managing. They're somewhat equally dispersed, but they are, again, it's a very traditional approach. It's a functional alignment that many cities and towns are successful with. So it's very hierarchical in nature, meaning that all department heads, with the exception of the police and fire chief, report into an assistant or the deputy town manager. It provides greater opportunities for those leadership positions to support and help guide the operations and provide feedback where needed to those department heads. If you go forward one slide. So to underscore perhaps one more time at a risk of saying something again, there's no additional FTE changes that we're proposing. There's 3 positions that we're adding the use of titles for. So deputy town manager, assistant town manager for public works, and human resources manager. The human resources manager title is not currently in use, and it would become the lead HR subject matter expert. But it is counterbalanced, or these 3 are counterbalanced by the elimination of 3 positions, which is the assistant town manager for operations title, the director of public works, and the assistant town manager for human capital. So 3 in and 3 out, and less within the executive leadership team overall from this proposed model. So I wanted to take the next step and talk a little bit more about why a deputy town manager and the characteristics that we're looking for when we're going to be going through the hiring and recruitment process. So first, as I talked about, there's a portfolio of departments that the deputy town manager would have oversight over. And then there's organizational-wide leadership characteristics that we're looking for. And I do think they work hand in glove, but for purposes of this, I want to start with the portfolio expertise. So we're certainly looking for subject matter expertise within land use planning, economic development, and human services, and that is obvious from the portfolio that they're managing. But significant emphasis on the land use and land use planning and economic development. We all know Shrewsbury is very desirable from an investment standpoint and a lot of development interest. We've seen that regularly and consistently at a high level in this community. Commercial development outpacing housing development, but incredible strength within the housing market. Seemingly a lot of continued interest that isn't slowing. And that's all happening in an environment where there's, I'll call, increased sensitivity, whether people like it or not, what the mix is, what they want to see in the community, what types of businesses, what types of housing that they're comfortable with, and then complexity. We're certainly not an agricultural center any longer. We don't have a lot of open space. Development continues to occur despite there being not a lot of new land that's prime for development. That brings topographical issues, wetland issues, It brings redevelopment type projects, tear down rebuilds that bring higher complexity into the mix. We need a greater skill set to really be able to support the departmental leadership and staff when dealing with this type of development. We also have a growing senior population and human services needs. Programming, relationships matter more, food insecurity, financial hardships. How do we keep people in this community who have been here for quite some time and are looking to remain here with multi-generational families? How do we support them, not only in their social needs, but also the financial challenges that come after someone's been retired for quite some time and costs continue to escalate, inflate. And then really integrating infrastructure development and preservation. So I'm jumping back a little bit to land use, but this is really signaling that this position is going to be responsible for leading the collaboration with public works infrastructure, with conservation matters, with land use preservation. As we have dwindling capacity, land capacity, infrastructure capacity, water and sewer capacity, despite the strong development interest and sector-specific preferences, especially when it comes to commercial-type development. We know we have a moratorium on mixed use right now within certain corridors. Where are we headed with regards to that? It'll be important for this person to really be a subject matter expert and help us with these areas and provide that high-level strategy that we just don't have those skills or resources to do today. Beyond that, supporting the organization as a whole, given the title of Deputy Town Manager and being the second highest ranking position within the organization. Everything that we do goes through a legal, financial, and some type of regulatory lens. A lot of Massachusetts general laws, a lot of those are financial based, a lot of nuance in the rules and regulations. And each and every time we bring a proposal to you or set up a project or program, these things need to go through these three lenses, and it takes time and experience to build those nuances and put those pieces together whenever you're supporting a department head or an employee with a new initiative, a new idea, or a change, or simply a question of like, why do we do this? Why do we accept public ways the way we do it? Why do we have to vote when residents want to change a street from a private way to a public way? That's just one example of things that get ground in the general laws and policies that you forget about whenever it's just been repeated year after year. And when you try to make a change, you often trip yourself up because you've missed something deep within the regulatory requirements or the state laws. We're looking for someone that has tenure and experience beyond that core portfolio. So that core portfolio is critical, but we want to see someone with a broader experience in general municipal management. Beyond those things of experience, this provides us an opportunity to have clear delineation for an acting town manager, a clear hierarchy within the organization, both with the assistant town managers and the deputy town manager, and succession planning over, hopefully, I would ask for a very long time, but the organization can't survive on a single person alone. So what are we doing for the future? And how do we ensure that there's someone ready internally as soon as may be necessary for any type of succession for the town manager position? Obviously, all the other critical things whenever you're in a position in this part of the organization, providing leadership development, coaching, mentoring, supporting staff at all levels, and of course the challenges in supporting and responding to media inquiries just gives us another opportunity to have a spokesperson for the town during challenging or good times. So I'll talk a little bit about the assistant town manager changes now. So first and foremost, portfolio expertise is the hallmark of these two positions. Subject matter expertise within administration and finance and public works, obviously given the title and the responsibilities. The assistant town manager for finance and administration and finance with core responsibilities over all human resource, human capital, personnel matters within the organization, collective bargaining experience, and dealing with the development and interpretation of our personnel bylaw, working with the personnel board, and developing policies and development programs to maintain and recruit high-level staff to get the outcomes that we need. Providing financial advice and support and administrative and policy support to the clerk. We have great strengths in our department heads in these areas. We're very fortunate with the tenure that we have, both from time in position in Shrewsbury and time in position in profession in similar organizations. So that's a great strength, and this will require a leader to be able to support and mature those relationships rather than dive deep into the day-to-day work there. And then this person will be responsible for IT coordination with our Celco service level agreement and the continued championing of the digital transformation of the back office functionality of human resource and financial programs. When it comes to public works, what we deem public works is someone who understands public works, deep enough, but really is focusing on organizational development, rebuilding the culture within the organization after turnover from the last few years, and really building the business management function to be able to rise to the challenges that we're facing in areas of unaccounted for water, transitioning to advanced metering initiative with water billing, the complexities of bonding for our capital improvement projects, securing state surface and drinking water revolving fund loans in order to mitigate and manage costs. So really building that financial and business management function. These two positions in the structural realignment really brings clarity of leadership support over our current model, which I will help explain hopefully a little bit more on the next slide. And a more consistent span of control with greater depth and support for all department heads. So with this direct alignment with similarity of number of reports, this will allow us to transition from providing support to most department heads on a monthly basis, supplemented by ad hoc meetings, to more regular meetings, perhaps bi-weekly or weekly where necessary by the assistant town managers for those department heads, and give department heads more access to them. So Nick, if you can go to the next slide. So hopefully I can try to clarify what I was saying. So we had been focused on using the three titles of operations, finance and administration, and human capital to operate through somewhat of a matrix structure versus a hierarchical structure. And that matrix structure simply meant that those departments under community development, public safety, and public works were to seek out the assistant town manager that they needed support from, depending on what support it was needed, versus a hierarchical relationship where they knew who they reported to day in, day out, regardless of the matter that they were focused on. So I think this approach was well intended, but doesn't really meet the regulatory and functional environment the environment that we need to function through. So going to a more traditional hierarchical model, I think, will serve departments and the assistant town managers better, and accountability and clarity that they have in their roles and the expectations that I have for them. This is my next to last slide, so I'll talk a little bit about how I see this influencing and impacting my position. Right now, in the current setup and with the current positions that we have filled, I have a broader span of control right now without having an assistant town manager for administration and finance. I actually have 10 direct reports, 5 department heads, the assistant town managers, and the chiefs, and then supporting direct staff within the office of the town manager, communications, procurement, and business systems. So this will reduce that and realign those responsibilities. I'm currently deep in the core collective bargaining negotiations, resolution of personnel matters, and that's really time consuming, and it'll be nice to have another layer with additional human resources support for that professional dialogue that needs to occur from the management office in dealing with the challenges that we face, being in the full scope of personnel matters, interim goal and project review, is also time consuming. So, looking at every portfolio, tracking that on a monthly basis, and being more of a co-manager with the assistant town managers versus a secondary point of control and review. And I'm also responsible right now for the tactical development of the financial plan. And that at times of the year is very time consuming, and would be better served if I was reviewing that versus developing it myself. So that's where I see I'm getting kind of tied up right now. But to look more positively, and how do I provide the greatest impact to the community, provide the greatest values to the community, leverage the multi-decade experience that I have in government organizations, especially at the local government level. Allow me to focus and provide more depth on critical projects, so less project purview, but deeper within those projects. Being more strategic at interim phases and final deliverable and outcome review. I feel like my touch points on the scope of projects that I see is very few and it's very limited, and it's way too far at the end versus being able to engage in those critical projects earlier. Increasing my ability to take on some of the things that hopefully we get some consensus on this evening with the town manager goals for FY27 within more proactive public communications and public engagement. Having greater accountability to the select board and moving things forward from your meetings, your policy requirements, the key priorities of the organization, and keeping things flowing because of the more direct scope of work and the ability to champion those for you. Developing and executing executive and board strategy, kind of in that same light. There were some misses within the last year of things that the board wanted to see, and the timeliness of those versus what your original intentions were versus what we were able to develop, and I feel I'll have better control over that. And then increased engagement with staff, so although I'll have less direct reports, hopefully it gives me an opportunity to manage differently, build better culture within the organization, engage on projects deeper, and be able to be with staff in more informal settings at the same time. So final slide. So just trying to sum up what we're trying to do, be more deliberate in how we manage day-to-day operations, leading to better outcomes for the community, more concise management approach and cleaner expectations for our entire leadership team. So we've developed a series of documents with expectations and clarity for the roles that we're presenting this evening that are shared with staff and will be set as expectations for department heads. And then finally, empowering the deputy town manager and repositioning the leadership team to own tactical execution. I think that we're building an overall greater strategic capacity within the organization, and will bring more resiliency into the town manager's office with regards to responsibility with everyone there. So really look forward to any questions that you may have. So no overall FTE changes, no budgetary changes associated with this. It's all funded in the FY27 budget. We're just taking a different approach with the positions that we're filling versus what we currently have. And as I said before, I'm really excited that we have nearly 40 applicants in a week and a half of having the position posted, and a few days left that I'm sure we'll get more candidates in through the door, which will make it a really hard decision, but it's great to have a high-quality field of candidates to build a future with.
Thank you, Kevin. Board members, comments?
I just have one clarification, because the chart isn't 100% clear. Do the assistants report to you still, or to the deputy town manager?
We're going to start with them still reporting to me.
Okay.
But, that could evolve over time. The deputy town manager is higher within the hierarchy of the organization, and certainly in the absence of the manager or in supporting assistant town managers, if a decision had to be made, the deputy's decision would prevail. We don't have a lot of that and immediate needs on questions, but the collective executive leadership team, the 5 positions, would still report directly to me.
Okay, good. Because I believe one of the things you indicated too was, bandwidth, because you had, additional, without the currently without that administration and finance position filled, you wouldn't want to have somebody like a deputy town manager have their own basket of departments and have to also supervise the assistant. So I'm glad you're saying that. It's just, I'm not 100% clear on the org chart the way that's drawn there.
Yeah, maybe the
If you
deputy
go back
town
on the
manager
chart,
should
like-
come down like that, but.
Can you go back the new chart, like, so the deputy town manager is going to deal with all three of them, or like only the 7 departments under him?
Or her.
It is, so as it comes to the assistant town managers, they're higher in the hierarchy, so they won't be direct reports to them. But again, decision-making, the deputy town manager would prevail. The deputy town manager will directly supervise the 7 departments and provide support and leadership assistance to the assistant town managers and their portfolio when it's needed. So that'll be the broader organization support that we're hoping to see in our candidates' tenure and talk to them about through the process on how they would be able to support areas beyond their direct portfolio. So it's not a single portfolio management, that's their primary focus, but, you know, questions that I may have to field solely right now, that lens of finance, legal, policy, and regulation, we hope that the deputy town manager can support
So,
the
right.
organization as well.
So right now you have only 3, the fire chief, police chief, and the deputy town manager.
And the 2 assistants will still report directly to me.
Okay, those are not in the chart.
I'm sorry?
Those are not here in the chart.
I think the chart is misleading. I think we could have.
So maybe you have
the
to make
lines
like
sort
some
of
kind
go
of like
down,
a save,
'cause
like
it does
it's
look
not
like
going
it
to
goes
cross.
to the deputy down to those 2, but I
So
think
maybe-
it's probably just the spacing on the slide.
Yeah.
But you could look at this and interpret that the 2 assistant town managers report
Understood,
up
yeah.
to the deputy.
Maybe you can curve it like that.
But I think to your point, what I hear you saying is that while there are sort of discrete reporting roll-ups, you would want the deputy town manager to sort of be a solid number 2 that could support you across the entire organization, even if, you know, it,
So maybe chart could be like that, deputy town manager, then the left-hand side and right-hand side with those assistant town manager.
Sure.
And then that way it more appropriate to understand like he's supporting both sides and then he's supporting to you there.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Yep.
I don't, Mr. Mizikar, I don't have any real questions. I appreciate you bringing this to us and for sharing it with the community. I know one of your priorities is always trying to elevate the organization, and so I think that this will help us in achieving that goal and making strides in developing our team. I think that we as an organization and the community benefits when we have a strong organization like that, and so really appreciate that. And I think it's a takeaway, if I'm not mistaken, from a development opportunity that you participated in, or at least things you've been thinking about over time. And so, again, just really appreciate that elevation, and I think it's great that you are looking to increase, just promote our organization. I look forward to working with the deputy town manager when that position is filled. I think it is really exciting that we've received nearly 40 applications. I think it speaks to the desirability of our community and our organization, that folks from across the Commonwealth want to work here. And so I think really looking forward to that opportunity.
I mean, I think it is, you're in way too many weeds and tactical things right now. And while I appreciate the patience of not hiring someone for sort of the current vacant assistant town manager position, I mean, we're filling the gaps. To me, this is a critical move from less reactive, more proactive. And, you know, I agree with what Carlos said. I think that you are very recognized within Massachusetts municipal government, if not more broadly, and I do think this type of elevated position is very attractive. I think we're seeing that from the the number of candidates that we're getting. So I think it represents a great opportunity, and I appreciate your mindset around the, sustainability of town operations over the longer term. But I think that, since you've been here, was it 9 years now? 9 years, you continuously evolve and adapt, and I think that, this is the right approach to make sure that you're able to focus on the things that are most important, but that you also have the confidence that the things that you're having to insert yourself in are able to be done effectively without your constant direct involvement. I would like to mention that I think that, having gone through your feedback process over the past several years and doing interviews with different levels of town staff, people really appreciate their access to you, their ability to learn from you. And so while I understand you want to continue to do that, I would just want to make sure that no one perceives this as you sort of pulling back from that. If nothing else, I hope it will elevate your ability to dedicate more, meaningful time to staff development. But I think this is a positive move for the town. And I think people will be very reassured, because we've all started to see some comments that we're adding another high-level position. So I'm grateful that you clarified, we're not adding FTEs, we're not adding budget. This is a restructuring of the organization versus adding, senior level positions. But, there's a lot that goes into running this town, as we know, because we're, working through it with you day in and day out. And there's so many things that don't go wrong, that could go wrong, and it's really important that, we have this forward-looking approach to make sure that we are mitigating those types of risks moving forward.
I echo, my colleagues' comments. Like you mentioned, going through the review process and looking at, what goals and priorities we have year over year that are not able to be addressed or met, especially larger, more innovative, visionary priorities that we know you're capable of and that we all really want to execute, but because you're responding to day-to-day, priorities and crises and things that happen in the community, those things, we just don't have the capacity to address those and really to act on those more innovative goals. So it doesn't, it's hard to, when you step back and look at the whole body of work and everything that it takes to run an organization as large as a town of nearly 40,000 residents, I'm really excited to see, especially somebody, I'm hoping we can get somebody in that has that executive level experience in planning and development that we really had with Mrs. Lass when she was our assistant town manager, and I think it's been 3 years that she's been gone at this point. And we have two very talented assistant town managers right now, but I think having more executive level support within the office so that you can focus on those larger priorities and goals without getting bogged down in the day-to-day minutia that, while you're doing a good job on those things, you have the capacity for so much more. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we have for applicants. I'm hoping that we have some solid contenders in there, and I think that this will be a really positive step for our community.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, so on the slide 7, I have one comment. The description of the position described too many things like is a IT, human, financial, public works. It is possible we can get the person like those all skill set.
So the assistant town manager for administration and finance is going to be filled by Christina Ordung. So Christina has taken the ATM for A&F. Keith Baldinger has taken the ATM for Public Works. And yes, Christina's experience and what she's done in her 8 years with us gives her that capability, knowledge of the organization, knowledge of the goals and the vision for the digital transformation, and her human resources experience gives her that skill set that's needed for that.
What about the Public Works?
So Mr. Baldinger, who's ATM for operations, will be sliding there. He spent his entire public sector career in Public Works.
Okay.
He was within the Highway Division in Shrewsbury. He served as the Public Buildings Division Manager. Prior to that, he ran his own contracting business for about 20 years. So, yes, he has that skill set as well.
Okay. Are we comfortable moving on to the next agenda item? More talking by Mr. Musakar. Agenda item number 10 is an update on the town manager's goals.
So I have a slide deck for this as well. A lot of text. I wanted to be able to capture and put on the screen more than read to you that you're all aware of already. But I wanted to be able to put the text of what we've discussed for goals so folks at home may be able to see them as well. Nick, if you want to go one slide. So we've talked a lot, especially in our off-site activities, our off-site meeting that we had at the beginning of June on June 1st and the subsequent night on June 2nd at your workshop. We spent about 5 hours, 6 hours talking about goals and the challenge that always exists when the board holds the town manager accountable and does performance reviews. How do you balance the scope of work associated with the entire organization, knowing that it's sometimes, there's goals or activities that I'm not directly responsible for, but it's essential because it's a priority that we set for the goals. And that has morphed and changed over the years. And last year, it ended up with an undesirable 24 different programs or activities that were reviewed by the board, established over time, and then measured in the performance appraisal process. Some of those things we just couldn't get to. So how do we provide the right level of expectations, obligation, and challenges to the town manager, and also keep the board informed of the work that goes on across the entire organization? So that's what we're trying to do through these goals. There's 4 high-level goals, and we're committing to keeping the board apprised through what at the beginning will be a very rudimentary dashboard of all 3 goals that are set for every department in a stoplight fashion, red, yellow, green, as far as if they're on track, some issues occurring, or if they're off track. So just go into the first goal, which the first goal I'm really excited about. I think this provides us an opportunity to be a leader in trying to modernize how we're communicating with residents, and I appreciate the board's really focus on this area and driving this conversation and explaining in the work site and off-site meetings what you all were looking for. This would be in part creating a digital platform, I think, to be able to communicate the way that residents see and communicate in their current lives: short-form video, plain language operational narratives, clear fiscal metrics, data and statistics over other forms of communication along with short-form video. I think this is a trend in society that local government needs to catch up with, and I'm excited to work with the board and work with staff to come up with some innovative solutions to be able to get there. The second part of this is developing expectations and responsibilities for all departments in the contribution to such a platform and what our expectations are. And then the third part, I think, is an interesting opportunity as well. Again, if there's more opportunity for public engagement because of the organizational structure that we have and the time that we have to dedicate to certain activities, how can we be more proactive in the public forums, topical community forums, focused town halls, So be able to get residents' questions answered, or provide them with more information on a regular basis. So goal one, all about public engagement, transparency, and dialogue, and I think some different approaches than we've explored in the past. I don't know how you want to go through this tonight. Do we want to pause here and have a conversation about these types of things and how we refine this further before we go on to the other three?
I think so. I think it's just easier if we can comment one by one.
Versus going back
Yeah.
and forth,
Yeah.
yeah. I think you can just, maybe reference the goals, the first one being the public engagement, transparency, and dialogue. Number 2, financial literacy and override readiness. Number 3, operational excellence and modernization. And number 4, strategic economic development and community vitality. For anybody who might be watching, they get a little preview of what we will be talking about. But board members, any comments on this one?
I just have a couple of recommended tweaks, just tweaks in language. The first bullet around this digital platform, it says identify and evaluate. Is it not also the intention to implement/recommend? Is just the evaluation, I mean, the goal is to get this thing up and running, right? So I would just ask if we could add identify, evaluate, and implement, or recommend, just depending on how you want to do it. If your goal is just to present it and then, or if it's, you're just going to go and implement it, that's fine too. Because I know part of the cost piece was you already had some funding for technical support to establish it. So I just would say we just add that implementation word. On the second bullet, I guess I'll just keep going. The word protocol, when you say a communication protocol, is that more like a policy and expectation? I want to just clarify what that would look like to the public when you're saying protocol.
Sure. So this would, yeah, I mean, protocol may not be the best word. It would be when, why, and how departments provide information that feeds into the digital civic platform.
Okay.
So, sorry, just to clarify, so this would be relating to the first bullet?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't about communicating with the public on like a day-to-day
No.
basis? Okay, understood.
It's like you'll have this centralized platform, but then you need to decide what goes on it
Okay.
and when, so.
It's almost-
this would be your, I mean, protocol to me kind of,
Is expectations a better word? Because you're saying it's expectations of the department of how they're going to utilize the platform, correct? Isn't that what you're saying there?
I think of it more as, I mean, policy is a strong word, but it's almost like a, like.
Operating procedure.
Yes, like a procedure, which would include
Yeah, that's
guidelines
sure.
around what type of information, probably some guidelines around frequency, because we all know if you just inundate, you
Yep.
know, it just, the messaging gets diluted. So to me, it was more coming up with some sort of process, protocol, et cetera, to help guide people to know what and when, to your point, to communicate.
Yes.
And the last one, the proactive public forums, I know there's like a schedule, but is there any expectation on how many?
No, I mean, this, I'll say no. I think it's open to this conversation, though. And Greg, you've not using your words against you, but you know, something I agree with is like the lead lag indicator.
Yes.
Right. Like if I do 3 and they're terrible, like what does it really matter? Or we do 3 and they're terrible. You know what I mean? Versus we do 1 really good within this fiscal year. I mean, it's not my expectation to just do 1, but I don't want to be judged by just we did 3 of something. It's like, what is the depth? What value do we provide when we do it? But if there's a specific minimum or expectation that the board wants to see, we can add that clarification. I'm not opposed to it.
No, I actually, I kind of like where you're going. I like if we're utilizing public feedback as far as, it's more of a closed loop process where if we do one, get the feedback from the public, and then we can determine what the best path forward is. So I like, what you're saying is capturing resident feedback and building public trust. So, yeah, because I guess I don't want to just say that there's a schedule and nothing happened. That's what my fear is.
Mhm.
Hey, we coordinated a schedule.
Right, yeah.
The schedule is that we'll do one in August of 2028.
I see what you're saying. So,
I'm just trying to make them more specific. I'm honestly just trying to make sure there's a metric we can look at and you can point to it and say, yes, it did it.
We could add, we did talk about this within our workshop about the fact that we would want to do one and then we'd want to debrief and we'd want to understand lessons learned and hope that that would help inform the next iteration so that we can improve on it and that ultimately the measurement would be, you know, resident feedback, resident engagement, like just getting them to show up and engage and, so would we be comfortable with having at least like the first meeting occurring no later than X? Would that, because then I feel like we could then have a conversation or you could tell us based on that when you think
Yep.
the next one should occur. And I would think that maybe one of the questions we could ask in the first forum is, how often do you want to see these?
Yeah.
And we
What
know
do you
people
wanna talk
have
about?
opinions about when and what time of day and location and all of that. So I think we ultimately know we want to have more than one, but
In the forum is very important, the timing. So today, forum timing was the 5 o'clock. Half of the residents, we are not able to see them. So 5 o'clock is not a good time. Time should be 6 or after the 6:30. So that way more resident can participate in the forum, any forum. Like when we are doing the future, 5 o'clock is not suitable for most of them. So today is the 5 o'clock, half of the resident not able to come. Very important that we have to add.
I mean, we could modify the first one that says coordinate recurring topical community forums. We can get rid of annual schedule. That might not be necessary. And then if you want to put a date in there, that's first one by, that's fine as well.
maybe we could just say hold 1 to 3 topical community forums. Would that be?
At least one.
Well, 1 to 3 includes at least one,
Yeah.
right? That we could say, or,
What if
you know,
Like in the high end. Like,
1 to 3 plus. I mean,
okay, I'm okay. I'm sold.
Yeah.
I'm sold on the plus. You put the
Yeah.
plus in there.
That's fine.
And my last comment on these holistically is I know there was a lot of discussion even through the review process on there's goals that you're not, a lot of these you're not personally executing, but you're overseeing. So would it make sense, especially with the new structure, to essentially identify who is that owner? Is it the deputy town manager? Is it an assistant town manager? Is it a department head? Because you want to make sure that there's flow down of the goals so that, I would assume you want to make sure there's flow down of the goals because whatever you're signing up for, my expectation is I'm sure some of these are being passed down
Yes.
to everybody else in the team.
I don't disagree with that suggestion. I would just be hesitant to initiate it now because those positions are open.
That's
And-
okay.
And, you know, just having been part of hiring
Yep.
processes, sometimes it's a long time before we can fill a position with the right candidate. So I would be hesitant to assign those right now. I think if we had, you know, filled positions and people who were up and running, I would be a lot more comfortable with that. So I don't disagree with the idea. I just disagree with it right now.
Isn't your intent, Mr. Mizikar, to have a dashboard for us to review? So you could put ownership within that. If there's one or more other town staff.
So I saw like all four of them, they are good, cover most of the thing. The issue I saw we need more granular, like the dashboard or like reporting, who going to manage and how we have the access also. We need more granular, and same way like Greg mentioned, like who's responsible for that. So we need yes or no, like we achieved that goal or we didn't achieve that.
Yep.
So that kind of measurement we needed for all of them.
Sure.
And those looks more generalized, so we need like a kind of more granular way,
Sure.
each of them.
Sure.
As we discussed, we're sort of trying to adjust. We were too specific in the past and too long, and probably, in some respects, more tactical than might have otherwise been called for. And we want this to be somewhat fluid, and we did discuss, we need to be able to measure it. So I do think that, having some criteria is important, and I think that dashboard will be important so that we're kind of catching things in real time versus at the end of the year and then saying, what about, and sort of questioning ourselves, so. Are board members comfortable moving on to goal number 2? Financial.
Yeah, I just wanted to
sorry.
comment, Mr. Mizikar, I appreciate, I know we haven't talked about each goal, but I appreciate you putting these together. And I think specifically for goal 1, I think that the community will really appreciate the effort that we're making to try to increase our public engagement, increase our transparency, and increase that dialogue and communication that we have with residents. Because as you noted, I think other local governments across the country really are trying to be creative with how they share their information, and I think certainly I know we'll figure out the right cadence for a public, the public forums or whatnot. But I think having an in-person event where folks can come in, give us that feedback, and then that helps kind of guide us with what we prioritize is going to be really important. And I think it also provides us an opportunity to elevate a lot of the good work that we do as a local government. And some of that, might not be captured by local media. No offense to them in the room, but I just think that that's really an important goal for us, and I again just appreciate that focus. So thank you.
Goal 2.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So, second goal, financial literacy and override readiness, enable community understanding of Shrewsbury financial position, operational capacity, and long-term capital needs. So this is a little more traditional as far as what we've been focusing on for the last few years. I don't think it's ever going to go away. It's so essential to the operations and vitality and functionality of the town. This would be updating the scenario-based fiscal model, delivering updated 5-year financial models. We'll start with a primary model or maybe 2 or 3 models and then get feedback from the board and run whatever scenarios and contingencies that you would like us to run, and provide you with operational risks of actions, inactions, changes, and then, keep everyone well informed as far as when decisions need to be made and when an override may need to occur based upon the outcomes that you're looking to achieve and the staffing levels that we have, service levels that we provide. So pretty traditional. The second part, I think, reflects back to the first goal overall, but I think it's important to call it out as we've discussed, which is really the financial component, which would be included within that new digital platform. So financial video shorts, a lot of financial data, being able to dig within the data. We are moving away from ClearGov as our budgeting tool, but the data that underpins it is all located at the state and local level, based on Shrewsbury. So, this is kind of the transparency on the financial side of goal 1, or kind of goes hand in glove with that.
Go ahead, Greg.
So my piece is just on the word engaging. Now, I think to me, it's just engagement and metrics would be a great thing to measure, because I think Tanner probably keeps track of a lot of the metrics on current posting and community post and engagement and things like that. So it would be really good, in my mind, is if you're putting them together, that we should, in theory, the goal would be to get higher than normal engagement, meaning views, time watched, those types of things. So it'd be great to have, in this case, a baseline. I don't know necessarily to say that there's a goal. I think in my mind it would just be they would be better than average.
On the fiscal part? Like
Yeah, just because, if you're going to put them together, like the shorts, and you're doing is somehow having a baseline to know that they are resonating at that point. Because I know it's a lot of effort to put these together. And we want to make sure that, I think if you're going to go through the effort, that we're seeing that. And I think the only real metrics I can think of on these are, the actual analytics that would normally come with social media type
Yep.
engagement. Unless there's like an ask or something in the video, right, that you're able to measure some other way, whether it's a survey, something, or a lunch with Kevin, if you want, I don't know if that's.
Sorry, may I?
Yeah.
Are you looking to track that data or to measure his, performance essentially on that data?
No, I just wanted to track it to know that so that we could pivot. So if you're doing it in a certain way, and we're putting effort towards the content, that we would know. You have to be able to measure it somehow to say, yes, we should continue to do these, or we need to do them in a different way. And that would be the only piece that I would be looking to Kevin. He's not doing obviously the work. I mean, he might be in a couple of the videos just from a content standpoint, but that would be just making sure that he's monitoring that and saying, we're not spending a lot of man hours putting together
When there's no
content
engagement.
if we're not getting the engagement.
Yeah.
I think that is a fair point. I think that we have to be mindful of the fact that we might not see much in terms of hits or, watches until we get to the full budget season. And I think part of this was our sort of thinking ahead to the town's stabilization strategy calls for an override at some point. We're not 100% sure when that's going to be, but we're thinking ahead of when that does happen, that we have the resources in place to answer the questions that people will have. And so that is when I think we might be able to better measure. That might not be this year at all if we go through a standard budget season. But if we wait until we need it, I think we miss a clear window. So part of this was we would expect to be socializing things with the community in terms of where we're heading, from a budget perspective, from a fiscal perspective, from a future override perspective. So when they start to question, why is that, and how are they wasting all my tax dollars? There's a place to go that is sort of a source of truth, if you will. Whether or not you agree with it could be a different story, but so I guess I just don't want to be.
No, I know what you're saying. So I think it's twofold. And I think what I'm hearing you say is there's part of it's reference material, which is there to reference multiple times, multiple years potentially, where you put them together. And then I think in my mind there's the secondary piece, which is the public outreach to drive them to the reference material, because it's a twofold piece. You're building a library, and maybe that is one factor. And then the second part is, how do you actually make sure we're trying to drive the public to utilize the resources that we build?
100%.
Okay.
And I do think that when we get to the budget, the town staff goes through
Sure.
warrant articles, but we would sort of pull out and maybe go a little bit deeper on the operational budget and or the operating budget. And then I just think that, to me, it's the landing page, clear, high-level overview. What is our budget, where is it being spent, and then it can go deeper. But we will have to explain what is the override, the stabilization strategy for Shrewsbury, and how did we get here, and things like that. So to me, those are some of the reference materials that we would want to slowly build out. And I agree with you, we don't want to waste a lot of time, resources, money, building out something that people don't find of value. So I do think that we should start with maybe some critical things, maybe test them, to your point, ask the community to check them out, get their feedback. When we have these community forums, it would be great to say, here's something we're building out, take a look at it, give us your feedback, what would be most helpful or valuable to you. So, but I think it's something that, again, we should slowly ramp up with the intent of ensuring we feel there is a centralized hub for people to go to for all things related to our town budget.
Mr. Mizikar, sorry, were you about to?
No,
Okay.
just
Um,
move into 3.
Okay, well, before you move on to 3, I do, again, want to appreciate you for innovating this goal. I think it's something that obviously, or of course, is ongoing. I think my feedback for this, and it ties into the override readiness and making sure that the community is understanding of our financial position, is I would have liked to have seen a deliberate call out for us working in partnership with the school committee on this. I think that it's going to be very important as we move forward. I think maybe it's implied in all of this, but I think a specific call out is something that I would have welcomed.
We good for?
So I want to talk about the override readiness, like in case of when we are planning for override, if it didn't go successful, what is the option we have? So we have to educate the residents if they are not ready for override, what is the scenario book we could have and how we can deal with that. So when we are educating that, also it go with that also.
How we are managing costs otherwise, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We have both pros and cons, and how we can, if we are not doing override for 1 or 2 years, what is the option we could have?
Mm-hmm. All right. Goal 3.
Yes.
So, this is continuation of some of the work that we've done, characterized by operational excellence and modernization. This is just ensuring municipal services are consistently delivered efficiently and effectively. A lot of internal facing parts to this, and some external as well. So, infrastructure for accountability, launching that internal organization performance dashboard by the beginning of calendar year 27, tracking all townwide priorities and operational performance. And I think most importantly, building on the work that we did with Boston University throughout the spring, is having each department build metrics or key performance indicators reported through the dashboard. So several departments got a jump start by actually working directly with the BU students. Part of the BU deliverable was also creating a template for the creation of operational KPIs for all departments. So we'd leverage that moving forward, ensure all departments have those KPIs that they're able to report along with their goals. The next, talk a little bit more about things that we actually need to take on, larger projects that are really part of the core fabric of what we do. One of those is emergency communications dispatch. We're still in a very old model of separate dispatch through police and fire. We're building an EMS and we need to modernize how we operate in that area. It's a large initiative. There's a lot of territory to cover and discuss between police and fire and how they operate and getting it more cohesive. It can be done. It's done everywhere across the country in a much larger scale than any single community, and we have to get there. This is not an initial cost-saving endeavor. It's an effectiveness and how we operate. It'll free up resources within the fire department, but additional resources will definitely be needed as far as the actual dispatching and communication, especially as we take on emergency medical dispatching. If we're going to do that in-house, that all needs to be determined. And then operations and administrative process modernization. This builds on our internal processes that we've been working on that we talked about when we talked about the assistant town manager for administration and finance. This is optimizing our ERP tool. This is also taking on challenges like unaccounted for water and improving the data and the analytics that we have and identifying where the non-revenue water is going, improving our billing and metering capacity, and getting to higher desirable outcomes. So these are definitely goals that will be further specified as we go throughout the course of the year as to the projects that we're undertaking within these areas, and we'll keep the board up to date on them through the dashboard.
Yes, Greg?
There's just two questions. I think they're somewhat correlated. The two words that I just are a little bit vague is when you say maximizing operational effectiveness, how do you measure that?
Where are you specifically?
Well, in the emergency communications transition, it says dispatch by June to maximize operational effectiveness. And then in the last bullet, it also says maximize staff capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we measure that to know that we've gotten there? And then, so that's just an open question.
Mhm.
And then the other part, just if you could, I'm just curious, I know it's not on your slide, but it's in the narrative PDF. The costs, increased operating costs for the communications transition, I know you're saying we're becoming more operationally effective, but you're showing an estimated increase of $400,000 per year. Can you just walk through that a little bit? Because I was a little bit confused as to where that
Yep.
came from.
So that's a rough estimate to start with. Hopefully it's less than that. But right now we have trained firefighters, certified firefighters, who are assigned to the dispatching function within fire. So if a 911 call comes in for any first response that needs to be happened through the fire department, it is transferred from the police department to the fire department to dispatch that apparatus. So the goal with moving to a unified dispatching would be to have professional emergency communicators trained to understand what fire apparatus, et cetera, needs to be dispatched. So the firefighters who are currently assigned to dispatching would be reassigned to fire apparatus. It would make headquarters have the same number of firefighters on a fire truck that the two outlying stations have. So it would meet our staffing there. So you're not eliminating those positions that are currently responsible for dispatching fire, but you are, don't have enough capacity with the responsibilities of what we have for police dispatchers right now to say, just take on fire. So it may not be an additional dispatcher for every shift, but it's recognizing the fact that we're going to take firefighters who are responsible for emergency communication, quote unquote, put them on the truck, but then we need to make sure that we have the organizational capacity to be able to dispatch.
Okay. So that's where you're coming with the operational effectiveness, because essentially it's mitigating an issue you could have, meaning that you would be understaffed on a piece of apparatus at a point in time,
Right.
based off the fact that you have firefighters who have, or at dispatch instead of out
Correct.
supporting.
So the goal is to have two firefighters and one lieutenant on every
Okay.
apparatus that rolls, and right now out of headquarters, we have 2 firefighters and no lieutenants.
I have a question about the organizational performance dashboard. Is this dashboard is going to cover the 5-year plan for the road conditions or no?
So that is a goal to get it stood up, and then, yes, it will be tracked through that. So
Okay.
I would say that along with, you know, the process that we need to set up and modernize to get that in place and keep it regularly updated, but it will definitely be tracked through the dashboard, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And the other question I have operational and administration process modernization. So I would like to know like how we are going to do. We are going to add any fund here, or how we going to improve that?
So the work that we've been doing primarily on the administrative processes is utilizing the resources that we already have in place that we really haven't. So one example of that is our ERP system, which is Tyler Munis. We have modules within it that come with the core package that we buy for, say, performance reviews, and we're not utilizing it for that. Or we could fully automate our time and attendance process, but we do that manually right now. So it's utilizing the digital technologies that we already buy and pay for versus buying anything new. So we have a lot of capacity that we're not exploiting or utilizing right now.
Okay. So for actually when we are running like doing the operation of all those, are going to add extra funding here for just like enterprise fund or money from the like a growth or something like here? How for assistance of, like for we need help for infrastructure development or support for that. So we are going to put that.
So I think that would come as it wouldn't be tied specifically to anything that's in these goals, but it would come up as we move into town meeting. Or let's say we're building the roadway improvement plan and we provide the board with an option that, you know, tells you how quickly or slowly we can get to a higher level on that pavement management index. If we're at 55 right now and you want to get to 65 within 2 years, how much funding do we need? That would be, we'd identify that amount when we're building the roadway improvement plan, and then the board would agree that we're going to ask town meeting, you know, to fund that level of investment in roads. So it's tied, but it's not really tied since we have to go through that.
I mean, if we have to write somewhere so we can track it, like what we are doing in this direction.
Yeah.
Even board member agree or not agree, but same time we have to put it like, we need extra fund to improve the road. The road are bad is right now.
Mhm.
So if we are not going to write in the goal or not in the dashboard, we are not able to going to track them. And as I suggested last time also, we have to add extra like 1 or 2% from the extra growth in the infrastructure support.
Mhm.
So that's like we have to work on that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that's a concept that we can explore, and, you know, I think once we get the cost parameters on how we can move the needle on the pavement improvement index, we can bring a whole bunch of solutions to the board to figure out how we're gonna fund it. I'm not comfortable tonight telling you what that number is or putting that specific amount in here, but I know we'll get there once we work on the index and identify ways that we can increase our pavement quality.
Okay. And I want to add one more thing, like somewhere you mentioned about the seniors. So we have to like provide the comprehensive report on the seniors economic data about their what kind of benefit they are getting and where is the gap is there. So we have to like that inside that also.
So we can, so just to make sure we're on the same page, so every year we can provide a report on what tax abatements and incentives that we do provide. Definitely happy to do that. The harder part is identifying those gaps that exist, because we don't readily get people's individual household income and asset data to be able to say, you know, if we moved it from 30,000 to 40,000, we would capture another 1,000 residents. People don't have any need, and I would say probably don't have a desire to share their financial information with us, so we could really assess that gap. We can certainly provide you with what we're providing, and we'll be able to track, if we get the special legislation passed, the incremental change that occurs from that broader opportunity to support more residents.
Yeah, at this point, whatever we can track, that
Yep.
is okay.
Okay.
In the future,
Yep.
maybe when we have our income data also, we can track that later.
Yep,
But currently, whatever, so that dashboard can also track that too.
sure.
Thank you.
Number 4?
This goal really ties into the planning, zoning, and land use, economic development initiatives that are mostly underway. The first is, I think I'll just say the overall goal is to foster a more resilient commercial tax base with minimum vacancies through long-term planning frameworks and land use regulations in alignment with community preferences. So we're working on what we need to engage with the community on and the studies that we need to do on the moratorium for the commercial corridors within the community for Route 20 and Route 9 that we put in place in December. And we want to bring recommendations back, final recommendations back to the board by April 1st. You will see interim and draft recommendations well in advance of that. So we make sure that we're in alignment with what the board wants. And we want to make sure that even if we're unable, the goal would be to address that at the May 2027 town meeting. But if we don't get the outcome that we want from that recommendation, it gives us an opportunity to go back in the fall of 2027 and still be within that 2-year window that we have to make those changes. So addressing that moratorium and the actions that we need to take related thereto is the first part. Updating the master plan and looking at the economic development strategy that we're finalizing and aligning those with community preference and revenue needs is the second part. And then the third part is housing production, tracking housing development, its fiscal impact. So what revenues does it provide, financial impact, revenues it provides, costs that it demands, services that it demands. There's many ways that we can look at the policies that we put in place for zoning, housing, commercial. They all have implications, right? We're beholden to the property tax, and we're beholden to Proposition 2.5. And there's implications for a high-growth community and implications for a low-growth community. And as we develop policies, we just want to be really transparent with what trajectory we think we're on prior to implementing any of those policies. So if it's going to reduce revenue, what does that mean for the residents, the tax rates, the frequency of overrides, and things like that? So we want to find that right spot where we manage growth and development responsibly and sustain operational capacity within the organization.
I have a couple just questions, general questions. Do you anticipate critical dates being tracked in the organizational dashboard, such as housing production plan expiration dates, like zoning moratorium, like we have to act on them? Like, is there somewhere that you have like a lot of visibility where it's more than multiple people can see it, so it's just very clear that they have, like, these are things that are can't miss kind of date things?
I can't say that I thought about things like the housing production plan, but I think that's a fine way to do it, yeah.
And then just another kind of clarification, because I like a few of those pieces you were talking about. Would you anticipate, like the dashboard, for instance, even at a macro level where you could drill in, if somebody was interested, let's say, in housing, so things like, I think what you're getting at, that we've talked about in other projects where it was, a number of school children per unit and things like that. What are we actually, like actuals of what
Yep.
we're seeing?
Absolutely.
So that when those types of things come up, you can point to it and say, this is our actual data. We have X number of, whether it's, like, say, apartments, here's what we're really seeing as far as the number of students in schools, here's what the real impacts
Exactly.
are. Okay,
Yep.
excellent.
Yeah, and hopefully we'd have the capacity to, and continue to track that year over year, and because I think, as you know, it's only as good as the year's data that we have. If we'd want to see, has housing costs in the community flip that, right? We used to not see a lot of school-age students in apartments. It seemed to be younger or, some demographic that didn't have children, but maybe that will change if single-family homes or duplexes are unattainable. So we do want to track it over time and keep it updated.
So I'm not sure where you could add that one. So we talk about the Shrewsbury Chamber of Commerce, one of the initiative we have to do it, Lexington has the Lexington Chamber of Commerce, Booster has the same thing. So that way we can have more effort to come invite the business and we have more interaction in the town about the new commercial growth. So not sure where you are going to add that one in the goal 4 or maybe where are you going to add that?
So I don't know a lot about the creation of chambers of commerce, and I don't know if towns create them. I haven't done research. If it's something that we want to research and look into because we think that's important, I'm happy to do that. I know we are served by other chambers of commerce. I know they're not Shrewsbury's alone. I don't want to commit to something that I don't know anything about this evening, but I'm happy to look into it further. Whether the town would create a chamber of commerce or is it something that happens more organically by business owners in the community coming together?
Maybe town support that. Like Lexington, what the person named Taylor, she was there. So now she's the communication director there in the Lexington. And she might can help, if you talk to them.
I think generally chambers of commerce are private, nonprofit entities. They're not government entities. We could certainly support it and, work with business.
We could take the initiative and we can talk to them because that's our need, not the business need. So.
Yep. I think we just need to start with, again, macro and then get to micro. And our point is to be macro, and we're in desperate need of getting this economic development study complete so it can inform what we need from a structural perspective, and that we can effectively engage with the business community regarding what their needs are. And we can get feedback on how to best retain existing businesses and attract new economic development to the town. Part of that could very well be these types of organizations.
We can have to explore, we are new here, so we have to explore. It could be the beneficial for us or.
Again, I don't disagree. I just think we need to get this, this study done and a plan, and I'm hoping the plan indicates that we need sort of a more dedicated resource to this for the town. And then we would certainly work with that person to explore those opportunities. I just don't want to put it down in these goals because I don't think we're anywhere close to that. I think that gets into the.
It could be the part of the economic development because we are exploring the commercial options, which we don't have too many, but that our chamber can help us.
I don't think I have the staff capacity to take on the creation of a chamber, but
I'm not, again, I think that's a detail that we're not, that could certainly be a future consideration, but I agree. I don't think it's something that we would explicitly put down as a targeted goal at this time. I think it would just set us up for.
We can do initially explore the town has the role or the business has the role. Who's managing, a business is managing them, or what is the role of the town? Initial, general understanding about that, and then we can work on later on that.
Well, again, I think we need to get an economic development structure in place and then see where that falls into. And I think we have to look at it through the purview of what town staff can do, because it's not.
No, you are right, but last time Michelle was saying our economic development staff is underutilizing, and that could be the idea for them to like explore them. So that way is the tell them they maybe request them they can be the do that.
Kevin, do you have, I apologize if you said it already, I know you'll create a dashboard, but what should we look at in terms of, is once a month too frequently? Is it once a quarter doesn't feel frequent enough? Just to take a step back and have you give an update in one of our meetings in terms of, even if you bring the dashboard up and just sort of talk about where we are, just so we can keep ourselves and everybody else informed on our progress here.
Yeah, I'm not
You
sure.
don't have
I
to
guess
answer it now, you
every
can-
other month or something, we can think about what cycle and how you want to do that. If you want to have departments come in and highlight anything, yeah, I can, that's something else.
We can talk about it. We won't
Okay.
put it on
Yep.
if it's not needed, but might not be a bad idea. We good to move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the last question about the strategic housing production track housing. So what does that mean? Can you please explain that? The last one, the track.
Yeah, so tracking housing development and its financial impact and to understand housing demands. So I think part of it is what Greg was talking about a couple minutes ago. So what type of impact are different types of housing having on the community? So multifamily and apartments, they have traditionally not produced a lot of school-age students and not a lot of cost associated with it. If we aren't producing, the other side of the coin would be if we aren't producing housing, what impact is it having on the tax levy? Is the tax levy growing great enough to supplement Proposition 2.5 in order to continue to provide the services that we have? Are we maintaining 10% subsidized housing inventory so we're not subject to Chapter 40B and development in areas where we don't want housing? So it's really just continuing the monitoring of what's going on in the community, and then making sure that we understand the fiscal impacts on any changes that we made within zoning, as far as the tax base and the tax levy.
Okay. Thank you, and I'm not I have one more point also. So there are a lot of accidents happening in the town. Like accident means like wildlife accident. So the town is going to consider some kind of like wildlife corridors, like on the Route 20 or some of the biggest major like. Do we have to add it in the goal also, because a lot of people residents want that.
I mean, I've never had a discussion about adding any type of wildlife corridor. I mean, it would be subject to so many things off the top of my head. I think that would be a major endeavor that we haven't talked about. I don't know.
I don't think it's
How to
related to
approach it?
these goals right now, Anand. Would you agree? And would that be something that, it wasn't brought up in any of our goal setting, and I'm trying to look at the relevance, and if it's something that we should discuss, I think we should consider it for a
Because
future
accident is
topic.
happening regularly, and those are like, if he's not going to add in the agenda or goal, I mean, how we can achieve them? Because Route 20 is like 2 days back, the one deer like killed by the motor, one of the car. So many like accident happening on the Route 20, Route 9, or so many places, because of the extra growth which we have in the town. So we have to do like for state, like he has to talk to state, or for like Route 20, 140 or Route 9, they can support it. And local, whenever we can create the corridor in the local road whenever we need it. They coexist with us.
I feel like that's just a completely different topic for a different conversation, which I think.
But that's the part of the strategic economic and development. This is the part that we are doing the development. We should be strategic and coexistence for like wildlife and us. any development we are doing, it coexists with them. Can't ignore them.
I think what conceptually we're saying though is that just because it's not explicitly written in a goal doesn't mean it's something that could be acted on based off of engagement with the board. I think that's what we're saying. 'Cause we're not saying that just because it's, because I want to make sure it's clear that just because it's not listed specifically in the goal doesn't mean it's not something that Kevin or member of town staff could be working on. We just don't necessarily have to explicitly write every single one of them out as part of the goals. Because I think back to what Teresa said earlier was we were trying to be a little bit more macro on the critical pieces. But if those types of things come up, then obviously we can talk about it in, whether it's a workshop or something else. It's not saying that there's no discussion about it. It's just that we don't need, right now, I think, to be as specifically granular under each one of these sub.
Because this is the major thing, like it's always ignored, so it's not there in any, I want to like remind, even add in a smaller way, like wildlife or something, then it is okay. Because we never consider, we are talking about our like human, but we are not talking about the wildlife.
Yeah.
All the development is happening, is creating the
Yeah.
imbalance currently.
I think I don't think anybody's disagreeing with that. I just know that back to, I think Teresa's point was, we didn't specifically discuss those as a priority goal during the goal setting process, and that's the reason why we're not talking about it right now. It's not,
Okay.
it's not that we can't talk about it ever. That's all, I think that's all we're.
No,
saying.
this has to be fluid.
Yeah.
I think we have to, and if we start getting overly specific, we're gonna be right back to where we started and then some. We're going to have really long lists, but these are not, exclusive goals.
Thank you.
So. Okay. Thank you.
So next steps,
Next steps are for you to get going.
so I'll provide the tweaks that are necessary to this, some of the language within the document, and then we will proceed. All right, I'll send it back out to the board, obviously.
Great.
Revise the memo. Thank you. I appreciate everyone's feedback and the thoughts on future endeavors that we need to take on.
You did a great job of getting us to focus, and we did. We dedicated a half day and then the following evening, and there have been different iterations back and forth, and I appreciate everyone's effort, but especially you and your staff that took the initiative. And we didn't talk a lot about that off-site workshop we had. You sort of really pushed us to sort of get out of our element, and you gave us all the opportunity to come to the table with our goals and priorities, and this is the result of that collaboration and kind of working together, and something that we all left the workshop agreeing would be sort of the four, I won't call them pillars, but again, those macro goals that we would be focused on. So, in addition to everything else, to Greg's point, there's a lot of other work that doesn't get specifically listed here, so. Okay, I'm going to move on. We're on agenda 11.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Review and act, oh geez, I'm sorry, Mr. Maroney. I really should have bumped you up. That was really, not kind of me, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Agenda item number 11 is to review and act on a proposed revised water abatement policy. And Select Board Policy 23, Mr. Maroney, our water and sewer superintendent, is here at 9:20 PM to help us walk through that.
Who's counting? Okay, so Select Board Policy 23 is the abatement policy from, I believe, 2015. And it was provided to establish a standard framework for consideration of residential water bill abatements in cases of above average water consumption resulting from specific documented circumstances. The proposed revision, our new proposed revisions maintain the intent of the existing policy while providing greater flexibility to address a broader range of residential situations and circumstances The revisions also expand eligibility to all property owners served by the municipal water system rather than limiting eligibility based on age, diminished capacity, or income requirements. Similar language has been adopted by the Sewer Commission, providing consistency between the town's water and sewer abatement processes. The proposed action before the board is to amend the Select Board Policy 23 to reflect the updated abatement criteria and procedures.
Board members, questions? I know we have, it's, you pretty much rewrote it. I understand the intent is to streamline the process, make it clear, and honestly, it does appear to be a little, or much more resident friendly.
It's everyone.
Everyone, there you go. Does anyone?
Well, only one question, because I noticed on the usage or the actual number of abatements really seemed really low in 2026. Is that what I'm reading here? Because you have the volume of water abatements approved. 2026 is 12. Last year was 84. 69 the year before. Is anything, do you think, is driving that, or is it some of the issues that drove the abatements are getting corrected, so you're not seeing as many?
This is from April, so that number's probably a little higher at this point, but I think we only are allowing people to abate once a calendar year. So if you had an outstanding bill, you abate it, and then you get told no, and then you don't apply again for the same issue.
Oh,
you
okay.
had.
So it's more of a policy change driving it than,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm curious what is considered a proof of repair, acceptable proof of repair.
So generally, we look for, they'll send a receipt, like a plumber came out to repair a hot water tank or something in the house, or a pool liner or something like that. We're just looking for some sort of documentation that the homeowner actually performed the repairs and that there was an issue, not just anyone saying, hey, I have a high water bill, I want an abatement. So it's,
Would this preclude residents who, like, say, has a leaky toilet and does a repair themselves? Would this allow for that type of, if it's just an issue? Like, I was at my grandmother's house the other day, and she's hard of hearing, and her toilet was leaking.
Yep.
And I don't know how long it was leaking for before we fixed it, but my husband just went and fixed it for her. So, if it was a circumstance like that where it's not, an issue that necessitates a plumber, would that allow for?
yeah, well, I've seen people, take a picture of a package or like a Home Depot receipt with the seal from a toilet, and we've been, yep, okay, no problem.
All right. My grandmother doesn't live in Shrewsbury, so
No, we've seen a few of those.
this won't be coming before you, but I'm just curious
Yep.
in a circumstance
We've seen
like
a few of those already, so.
that. Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
If there are no other comments or questions, I will entertain a motion.
I move that the board approve, I move the board adopt the revised water abatement policy.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank
It was riveting conversation, so.
Listen, I was not thinking, and I usually am really sensitive to that, so
It's quite all right. I have a 1-month-old at home, so.
Oh
my
goodness.
Gotta throw that one in there.
You're not gonna sleep anyway, so, do you really?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
4 weeks, so not even a month yet. but
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Please apologize.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
everyone
Blame
for
Kevin.
us.
You
Well,
should have told her.
was on for that.
We have an assault. Evan,
I'm gonna get
did you write that down?
Boy or girl?
Boy,
Congratulations.
so, Shrewsbury's newest resident.
All right, love it.
Congratulations.
All right.
I think we owe them like a DoorDash card or something.
Feel like such a jerk. Okay. Item number 12 is to review and act to appoint a delegate and alternate delegate to the Central Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission for a 1-year term. So my understanding is, Michelle, you are currently the Select Board delegate, and we have a volunteer for the alternate, Perna Rao. So I guess the first question is, Michelle, is it your choice to continue as the delegate? And does anyone else have a desire to be our delegate?
I am interested in staying on as the delegate.
Anyone have any issues with Michelle continuing as a delegate? And then, any concerns with, Perna Rao? I know, Ms. Carr, you communicated with Mr. Rao, and seems like a very fine alternate selection, for this, so entertain a motion.
I move to appoint Ms. Conlon as the Select Board's delegate to CMRPC.
Can I second
Do I
my
need,
own
do I need?
nomination?
I would do 'em both.
Can I do them both at the same time?
Yep.
Okay, so I move to appoint Miss Michelle Conlon and Mr. Perna Rao as our delegates to CMRPC. Michelle serving as the Select Board delegate and Mr. Rao as the alternate.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Thank you. Item number 13 is to review and act to appoint 2 members to the Affordable Housing Trust for a term of 2 years. Martha Gannon is seeking reappointment, and Beth Cassavant. Motion?
I move to appoint Miss Martha Gannon and Miss Beth Cassavant to the Affordable Housing Trust for terms of 2 years.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 4-1. Item number 14 is to review and act to appoint constables in the town of Shrewsbury for a 1-year term. 4 constables, all seeking reappointment to be constable qualified, should there be a need. No discussion, concerns, motion?
I move to appoint John Giannath, Raju Ananth, Robert Esposito, and Matthew Kastner as constables in the town of Shrewsbury for a
Second.
1-year term.
Oh, sorry. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Item number 15 is to review and act to appoint 3 members to the Tax Relief Fund Committee for a term of 3 years. 2 are statutory reappointments, and Ms. Tierney as a reappointment. No discussion, questions, motion?
I move to appoint Principal Assessor Ruth Anderson, Treasurer Collector Amy Perkins, and Ms. Julie Tierney to the Tax Relief Fund Committee for terms of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Agenda item 16 is to review and act to appoint 3 members to the Historic District Commission, 1 for a term of 3 years and 2 for a term of 1 year. We have 2 applicants. 1 is a reappointment. So we have the ability, maybe I'll make a suggestion that the reappointment be for the term of 3 years and Mr. Allen be for a term of 1 year. And we did note at the beginning of the meeting, but that still leaves one 1-year term open. So we hope that there will be other interests. Feel free to make other suggestions.
So, if I can see like most of them, the reappointment, we are not reaching the broader community for more like a candidate can come in, we can have choice for like, you can see the most of them reappointment, all those are coming. So we want to give the fresh perspective on the new things like ideas, all those. But we are missing here, like this reappointment is continuously going on. So the town is not approaching properly to the wider residents.
Well, we're advertising the positions. People aren't.
We are not getting that.
Well, I think just to put it in context, the Affordable Housing Trust, we had 1 reappointment and 1 additional applicant. The constables, I mean, that's not necessarily
Okay.
something that, and then the Tax Relief Fund Committee is, I mean, 2 of them are required to be the town staff members that they are. So I see your point. That's why we've been trying to talk about them at the beginning of each meeting, and we've engaged Tanner to help, get the message out, with his updates as well as to town meeting members.
Yes.
We're seeing it with town meeting members as well. It's a pretty universal problem, so I agree with you that we're not getting the reach. I don't think it's through lack of effort, but I also am not opposed to certain reappointments when a resident has been committed and doing a good job.
Maybe sometime like when time we have to give them more wider, like long time should be like more longer in place. Sometimes say, oh, this is our deadline, 10 days or 15 days we need it. So how much usually do we give the time? When we post it, how many days we have to fill that position?
The annual reappointments, we solicit interest for reappointments and then advertise about a month in advance.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not necessarily the same for each and every one, but, from late May to early June for these positions, since it's.
1 month time.
Yeah.
And I'll just add, since we're talking about the Affordable Housing Trust, one of those positions has been open for, I think, a little over a year, so we've been really trying to get people on board, so
Okay.
I agree with you. I will move to appoint Christine Gustafson for a 3-year term and Mr. Sean Allen for a 1-year term to the Historic District Commission.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 17 is to review and act on extending the terms of the 300th Anniversary Celebration Committee members from June 30th, 2026 to June 30th, 2028. Tried to make that easy for you to move.
So
It's
moved.
pretty standard.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Aye.
Agenda item number 8 is to review and act on the rates for the solid waste program for fiscal year '27. This was something we discussed at our last meeting and decided we'd like more time to review before we acted. Mr. Zakar?
So I'll provide a couple quick updates. I won't go through every similar aspect of the slideshow that we went through last week, but there are a couple things. So basically, I want to start by saying we appreciate the board's feedback and understand the trends within the program. And we took another look based upon that feedback to provide you with an updated or alternative recommendation. So we started last week with a 10% overall proposed increase. We are, proposing this evening and showing you what a 15% increase would look like. And I do say it would provide us with, I think, some much needed fiscal flexibility within a program that has been changing for a number of reasons. So I'll get into the details of what that rate increase means, but the additional rate increase. But I do want to start by saying we're doing really good on revenue this year. So we've raised about $1.4 million, 98% of what we budgeted for through today, essentially, what's in Munis right now. We do have $121,000 in outstanding receivables. They're pretty short. Not many of those receivables are over 60 days. So I do think we'll get to 100% or 101% of our revenue target for the year, which was revised in the fall. So with a recommended increase of 15%, it would, based upon everything being the same year over year, it would raise about $211,000 or $212,000 more than we raised in fiscal year '26. So that's going to help push the total amount of revenue into the program. We're still proposing to use 54% of the tax levy for this year to be conservative. It may, if everything works out well, give us some financial flexibility in future year and not have to do a 10% increase year over year. So, Nick, if you want to go to the next slide. Also want to take the opportunity in some conversations I had with Mr. Richards about what is driving some of the costs. Why do we need to take the cost? Why do we need to have a cost increase? There's a couple fixed costs within our budget that I want to highlight. Solid waste contract collection is going up 5%, $122,000. Solid waste disposal is going up 3%. That's estimated at about 14,000. Minor increase in bulk waste sticker pricing, and then $41,000 in total staff increases. So about $178,000 in cost increases. Now, the budget didn't go up by a similar amount because we shaved in some other expense areas, but these things are contractual and fixed costs that we really can't control. So next slide. So when we look at bag sales year to date, again, we're pretty far through the fiscal year. If we take the 4-year trend, we're looking at about 738,000 in bag sales. If you include FY26, that knocks it down to 727,000. So based upon, I think, what we heard most clearly from the board, we're using $710,000 for all the estimates that we're providing with this revised recommendation tonight. So that is the largest driver of moving from a 10% increase, from a 10% to a 15% increase, is the reduction in the assumption of total bags that we'll sell. So that will kind of level itself out, allow us to raise the proper amount of revenue to cover the expenses that we have in the budget. So the 5%, if you go to the next slide, Nick, how does it influence the individual consumer or resident? So over what we had proposed last week, it's about 30 additional cents on a roll of small bags and 65 additional cents on a roll of large bags. So in total, a roll of large would go up, that was per bag, not a roll. So overall, residents would experience about a $20 increase, $20.52 for the entire year, or 40 cents a week if we go with the 15% increase. So I'm not saying it's nothing, because it is something. It's $20 per year. But the revenue flexibility that it would provide to us when we're seeing a declining trend in bag sales, I do think is responsive to what the board was questioning, and it makes sense to go with a proposal at a 15% rate increase for this fiscal year. If there's any revenue that comes in excess, or if revenues outstrip expenses, it stays with the solid waste program as retained earnings, because it's an enterprise fund and can only be used for solid waste in the future. So I know it doesn't address all the programmatic changes that we've talked about or considered, but I think for the programs that we have right now, a 15% rate increase is what we would recommend this evening. But happy to talk about the 10% and any differences there between.
I just, you had good confidence in the 10%.
Yep.
And I feel like this gives you some margin, but I question whether or not it's really necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the desire to mitigate a higher percentage increase next year. I think it's important, correct me if I'm wrong, if we fall a little short, how short would we have to fall in order to have to go back to, town meeting for additional appropriation? We have enough to cover it. It's not like we're going to come in with half the revenue
Correct.
that we're projecting. I mean, the difference between the 10% and the 15%, I get it. It's 30 cents on a small bag roll and 65 cents, but that's, 15%, I just think it's a number that we're so sensitive to not passing on more than we need to. I'm just not sure I'm fully behind this revised proposal. So walk me through how risky it is to stay at the 10%.
Well, you're looking at about $70,000 in difference in total revenue year over year, so it is a margin. It would allow us to mitigate some of the uncertainty with declining bag sales year over year. So it's, if we went with the 10%, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. But again, taking a look into the declining bag trend, the increases that we're seeing in some of the fixed cost categories, it is a little,
It's tight.
yeah.
And I understand it could result in 25% increase
Mhm.
next year, which again, it's a large percentage on a relatively low dollar, but I just, I don't know. I don't like.
Well, I'll be honest, I was kind of in the, aligned with where you were at, Teresa, until I did a massive deep dive on this thing. And I'll just, a couple of comments, because there's a few things, because it's not clear on, even on the expenditures, the one piece that's missing is the actual cost of the bags, because it is cost of goods sold, because when you look at what we're selling the bag for, there is a per bag cost, which our supplier, which is another contract that has escalations year over year. So the amount of drop through, meaning the money for a bag that's actually going towards execution of the service, you have to look at, for a small bag, it's approximately 20 cents is what the bag, it's not just the bag, and this is the other thing I want the public to understand, because I think this is important, because we have got complaints about the quality of the bag and thickness of the bag, and that was increased to the newer bags, but any cost that goes into, like if a thicker bag is going to cost more money, the bags are going to have to increase, because you can't absorb just the cost of the bag, because we need the revenue to pay for the service itself. So we're only getting, let's say currently today at $1.25, you're effectively only getting $1 of that that's actually going towards the service. The rest of it's going just to deliver bags through the retail, but we're not in the business of inventorying and distributing bags. So it is actually, for the service we're getting, the fee is actually not ridiculous, and there's zero competition. It's effectively a monopoly. So if anybody wants to compete out there, get into the municipal pays-you-through bag program, because there's one person out there who can do this today. And everybody uses them, including the town of Worcester, and everybody. I think there's 112 or 120 towns in Massachusetts that have some form of pay-as-you-throw, and I would argue probably all 120 use the same person. And the other part that I just want to make sure that we talk about was, there was a discussion of the intention that 50%, we're trying to get to 50% of the cost of the program through the tax levy, and 50% through the actual bag fee. And I don't know that at 10% we're really making progress towards that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the 15 in my math, when I was kind of running through this, I know Kevin doesn't have all the detail, I don't want to bog us down with that, but we're essentially splitting the difference. We were essentially at 55, and I think we would be probably somewhere in 52 and a half or 53, and then incrementally over time we get there. And my personal opinion on this is, any program that's consumption-based, meaning residents or anyone based off behavior and lifestyle, can impact their costs. So it's not a fixed cost, it's a variable cost.
Mm-hmm.
So I can make personal changes that would allow me to mitigate this increase. And if I use more trash, then I'm paying more. If I use less, the more we put in the levy, I always believe it is that I'm somewhat subsidizing someone who consumes a lot more trash, where it's just my philosophical opinion on this is, I think more of it should go to my behavior choices. So I'm in support of the 15 only because it allows us also to take more of the burden off the tax levy, more onto the actual cost of the bags themselves, and we're making progress in that direction. Is it the end of the world one way or another if we still go into 10? No, but I think this 15 is getting progress. And if you have looked, not that we should always compare ourselves, we're still, and I did a comparison on this, we're still in like the second quartile, or maybe even after with this change, maybe even third, because if you've looked at the market like anything else, I mean, Northborough just increased their cost of their bags by $1. It went from, I think, $1.50 to $2.50 for a small. They made some really significant increases, and I think you're seeing other towns do that as well to help mitigate some of the costs of these programs.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want the public kind of be aware of that as well, that this is not an insignificant amount. We're not making these decisions just for, it's not a necessity. It really is, I think, in my opinion. My opinion.
In a very literal sort of,
Yeah.
you know, I understand and can appreciate you backing into the intent of how the program is intended to be funded. I think I can't disagree with anything that you've said, but I think I still feel like we currently could absorb if we needed the $70,000. And I don't know, I think it's just, I think the appetite for residents right now and the sentiment around trash bags, and I don't disagree, I think that we are making strides, we will continue to make strides, and hopefully people understanding how they can do more with recycling or do more with composting and reduce their need for these blue bags. But I still think that while it's, I can look at the difference between 15 and 10%, and like I said, 30 cents or 65 cents for a large, you know, sleeve of bags is not necessarily all that significant. I'd prefer to stay at the 10%. And you guys can throw it back in my face next year.
I have to input about that. So solid waste, like we have to increase the day of the drop off. The day currently which we have is creating the chaos on the on the garage when we are dropping. So we need one extra days, 1 or 2. We have to add the extra days so people can come and drop, not like
For yard waste.
yard waste. So we have to increase. This is the other. The second other input the current bag is still if you last time I told you say no it's very good condition. I can show you the 50 comments people are saying those bags are not good. So why we can't try a pilot program we can have more thicker bag, we can charge extra cost whatever 10 cent and 15 cent only those bag. Yeah. And we can start as a pilot program and
start a business in that, because as Greg said, there's only one manufacturer right now, but
no, some manufacturer can do that
Yeah,
a
they
little more thicker, but
you could go and get a quote from them if we wanted to and say, here's what
Yeah.
it really would be to, if you increase the thickness.
thickness, yeah.
But
And if a resident want to buy that one also, then we don't have any issue. So we can start with the
so you're saying have options.
options. Yeah.
I can tell you the data that we have, there were 28 bag complaints over the last 12 months. 28.
I can say 50. I have print out on the Facebook 150 people complained. The same amount.
Yeah, and I just always request those people come to the town hall so we can replace those bags and
But replacement
we
is
need.
replacement is not a solution. We have to provide the solution.
We increased the thickness of the bags.
But still they are not happy with that.
Well, I just beg those people to come to the town hall so we can, 1, replace their bags for them, and 2, understand the challenges they're having so we can address it. It's difficult to do that when we're setting the rate for bags. If the residents are having that, we just want them to tell us and bring it to us. Facebook doesn't work.
But those are resident, those are telling you they have real name. They are not a fake person. Those have the identity.
I
Not like-
I
they
love
are
and
not-
I know that. I just wish they would let us know. We're not on Facebook.
So we could have another option for them, you can pay 10 or 50. What are the extra costs coming? Putting the extra thick bag, they can directly use in the trash bin, and they can throw it. We can start the pilot program. Didn't work it we can leave it.
I'm not sure you think there's an appetite for people to pay more for bags?
We can give option because this is this amount of money we can provide this bag. If you want to more thicker, more durable bag, we have this option
So there is a part of the bag manufacturing where they're not intended to be able to hold 80 pounds of trash. There is a fail point, and it's purposeful in the manufacturing, because if every bag was indestructible, people would be filling 100 pounds or 80 pounds in every bag. That's not what they're designed. So there is a failure limit that's known based upon the millage that we sell, and that's always been a part of the program. I don't know how we could, if it's the desire that the board wants us to do, how we start a program. We mass manufacture 700,000 bags a year. What percentage of those are we doing at a higher millage or for some pilot, and how do we make it work? We did a pilot with thicker bags, we did a pilot with non-drawstring bags, and we took that information and developed the bags that we have. And again, the less than a third of complaints that we've had year over year across the board from what we're receiving. So,
I know they're not perfect, trust me. And so you're going to have some that are just, they're ripped or, you know, they tear when you take the sticker off. and
I
so
can see
forth.
with my personal experience. Like when I put the trash, I lift it, it's tear always.
Okay. Well, you
And
should
I'm
bring
not-
that to
I don't
town
put too many
hall,
things. I don't
get a
put
new
too
bag. I don't disagree, and I also agree with Kevin, we need to engage with residents in a way where we can sort of measure this to be able to understand in a town of 40,000 people, is this a 10% or is this a 0.2% impact, and what we should do about it before we were to go and I think personally, my experience from what I've seen from posts is that people want the thicker bags, but they don't want to have to pay
Yeah.
for the thicker bags. And that's my concern, is if we go down a road and we just get people even more frustrated for having to pay more for something they feel should be quality. So I totally understand. It's happened in my household every once in a while where one of the bags is defective, but I think that we do want to let residents know that we are willing to replace those. And I agree, we need to have them engage with town hall so we can track that and make sure that we're identifying trends.
So one interesting point I did learn.
Hmm?
It is in the specification when you send it out for bid that it's 15 pounds for the 13-gallon bag and it's 25 pounds for a 33-gallon bag, and it's written in the specification of what they should hold. And I would guarantee, I'm sorry, I got down this
Okay.
path. Back to Kevin's point, that I don't know if people put more than that, it legitimately is in there, and they're probably saying this bag actually met the specification because it's only supposed to hold 15 pounds or 25 pounds or whatever it might be. And then I just don't know. I don't think we want to have 4 SKUs of product that people have to order anyway. And that's why I was saying, like, if you had a small, heavy, it just gets way too complicated. But if people want heavier bags, I think we just have to see if they're, and if we said you got to pay for them, I think a lot of people would say, it's okay, I'll figure out another solution. I mean, ultimately. But it might be a big topic of our first public engagement. We might have to
Honestly,
go talk about trash
This
bags.
is one of the
Might be a
things,
huge
what
topic.
are the hot topics? Well, we'll put the blue bags on
It's
there.
interesting, though. It's a fascinating business model.
I just have a final comment. If anybody is still listening at 9:52 p.m., there are abatements available for eligible individuals who will be able to purchase 1 small roll and 1 large roll per month directly from Town Hall at the current pay-as-you-throw rates. At present, there are approximately 200 households who would be eligible for the reduced fees. Using the average household data, this would equate to savings of approximately $20.52 per year per household, eligible household. The exemptions are allowed for the following, among others, blind exemption, elderly under Clause 41C, tax deferral recipients, and veterans with service-connected disabilities. And details on how to apply can be found on the assessor's page on our town website at shrewsburyma.gov.
Thank you. Are we good with discussion? Carlos, anything?
No, I think I have to make a motion, right? So, Madam Chair, I agree with you. When I was looking at this memo, also prefer to stay at the 10%. I understand that the staff will do a multi-year analysis as well in the years, in the time to come. And so I guess, Mr. Mezakar, my question to you would be, what is the timeline of that multi-year rate analysis, if you're able to share that? Even high
We
level?
normally target an updated rate in the April timeframe, March or April. We can do it sooner. The challenge with doing it sooner is that by the time it's implemented, it's a year's data. The year's data is too old. But I haven't set a specific timeline for it. But if we want to target earlier in calendar year 2027, like the beginning of March, it's something that we can start and work towards now.
Yeah, for me, I'd prefer that we stay at the 10 that was discussed at our last meeting. I think some more work on the rate analysis in the years to come is obviously important, and I know we've got a lot of discussion on it, but I think that's what we originally just talked about earlier in the month. And for the public that's watching this, I know times are difficult, and I know maybe it's a few cents, but I think those cents matter. And so for me, that's why I would prefer to stay at the 10.
Carlos, I would recommend you take a motion at the town manager's recommended 15%, and if that doesn't pass, then we can look at an alternate motion.
So I move the board approve the fiscal year 2027 pay-as-you-throw solid waste and recycling program fee schedule as recommended by town staff at 15% effective July 1st, 2026.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No. Motion passes 3-2. Right? Yes. Okay. Okay.
Implement that as soon as we can.
Thank you, Kevin. Item number 19 is to review and act, this is going to be another so moved. Review and act on the road closure requests from Helene Dossi, India Heritage Foundation for a parade beginning at 100 Maple Avenue and concluding at 226 R Grafton Street on Sunday, July 19th, 2025 from, I'm sorry, that must be 2026, right? July 19th, 2026?
Yes.
Okay. From 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Police Department has reviewed the request. Operational plans are in place.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is correspondence. Item number 20 is an email dated June 9th from Representative Hannah Kane regarding Chapter 90 enactment, Municipal Road. Bridge repair funding sent to Governor. That is, I think, if I have my notes correct, House Bill 5470. And I think that is about $1.5 million to Shrewsbury, and I believe the governor has signed off on that, if I'm correct. I could be wrong. So noted, email dated June 10th, 2026, again from Representative Kane, 1.56 billion supplemental spending bill, about 500,000 of that would be allocated to Shrewsbury. So noted. I just want to note that we are trying to schedule a time for Representative Kane and Senator Moore to come in and just give us a legislative update and all of their efforts, and certainly convey our wishes for funding and other. So more to come on that. Item number 22 is an email dated June 10th, 2026 from Jim O'Neill, 6 Victoria Circle, regarding Walnut Road repairs. Town staff has responded, so noted. Email dated June 12th, 2026 from Patricia Minton, 3 Partridge Hill Road, regarding potholes. Town staff has responded, so noted. 24 is an email dated June 15th from Lauren McDonald, HNTB Corporation, on behalf of Mass DOT, 31 James Street, Boston, regarding the Route 20 Corridor Improvements Project. Kevin, did you want to comment on that?
Sure. So there were some final changes that actually came through the request of the Shrewsbury Conservation Commission that were incorporated into their environmental assessment, and it has been updated, and we know that the advertisement date for the project is this August, and it will get underway as soon as they award the contract.
Great, thank you. And item number 25 is another email dated June 18th from Representative Hannah Kane regarding the House passage of $3.5 billion environmental bond bill. So do appreciate Representative Kane's advocacy and updates to us. If there is no other business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you and good evening.